Hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up, bro?
Oh, hello, good evening. How are you?
Oh, shoot. I can't hear you. Not good.
Oh,
One more time?
testing, testing.
Weird, dude. I was having weird permission errors. Oh.
How about
Having weird
testing,
permission
testing
errors.
now?
There we go. There you go. I can hear you now.
Cool.
Okay. Easy problem to fix. Good. Headphones. There we go. Okay. There. Okay. Miss Jade. Welcome in. Thank you. Hi. Hey, Starry Night. How's it going? No, thank you. Thank you, Miss Jade. Appreciate you. Yeah, we got my likewise my youngest, her birthday her birthday's tomorrow.
Nice.
She's 3 turning 4. Little that's usually how
So I
numbers
guess
work.
maybe
Sorry.
speaking a little bit.
What was that?
I guess maybe speaking a little bit, maybe
Oh,
not full sentences.
oh yeah, she is now. She's super advanced on that stuff. She
Oh,
actually
great.
gave me a we gave her um
She wrote you a poem?
she gave me a rose. We gave her
Oh,
a
very
graduating
sweet.
we gave her a bouquet of flowers and she gave me one of them right before I went live. I was like, "Oh, that's so cute. Thank you."
You deserve it.
She's so cute doing all the graduation stuff. And what's up, Prime? And my youngest is turning 4 tomorrow, so that's the so that's what. So
So
yeah,
another sleepover.
dude, they are in contact with that. Not tonight, but yeah, we were actually talking with the moms and dads at the party, and we're kind of like in the same parenting style that they are, where it's like let the kids kind of like be responsible and do their own thing, And so
Free
just like
range chickens.
kind of, but yeah, dude, just like letting the kids like if as long as they're safe within the confines of the neighborhood, like let them go at it and have fun. So we meld well with them, so it's nice.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Boom. Okay, we're back. Sweet. All right. Hey, Starry Night. In case of emergencies, will those straws that filter dirty water work? Yeah, they do. They're all tested in order to do that kind of stuff for sure. Um, yeah, they're all pretty good. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's start it. The biggest thing in news this week, man, the story that won't die. Honestly, it's because the Republican Party just refuses to do anything that ends with Jeffrey Epstein, but
True.
still going after the Fauci. Um, I hate the framing of this. I hate how the news articles frame this. The New York Times: Fauci assailed by Republicans took the fifth. Here's what we know. In a 3-hour Senate hearing this week, Dr. Fauci invoked his constitutional right to stay silent, leaving people confused about many of the issues raised. After Dr. Anthony Fauci invoked his Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate himself at the start of the Senate hearing on Wednesday, Republicans spent next to 3 hours battering him with questions and allegations as he sat in silence. Citing thousands of pages of government records, they held Dr. Fauci, the government's top COVID advisor during the pandemic, responsible for school closures and lockdowns, accused him of enriching himself as people died, and even mocked his interactions with celebrities. Most significantly, they accused him of funding research that led to a creation of the coronavirus that causes COVID, and of lying about it under oath to Congress. So, I guess I was just, it's just, I don't know why this came out of this, why this week, what was going on, and then also, oh, thank you, Miss Jade. Um, I just, it's it's so fake, man. All this stuff, all this contempt, and all this nonsense is just so fake.
Yeah, it's all performative, right? And well, it is in my mind a witch hunt. I think largely driven, from my understanding, by Rand Paul. Or I mean, most of the Republicans, if not all the Republicans, but like he seems to be spearheading it, and he seems to. I think he's going to attempt to do whatever it takes to like whatever, pretty much either make Fauci's life miserable, or if you can actually like get him into prison, he'll probably do that or attempt to do that.
Yeah, and this is like I feel like this is what they're trying. They're doing everything they can in order to do that. Um, Go ahead.
And yeah, the releasing of the diary, or from what I understand, it was RFK Jr. that like released the diary to Rand Paul, and then like Rand Paul released it, I think, to the public or something to that effect. Um, but it's also, let's just, yeah, I'm curious how that happens, or I don't know. From what I understand, um, Fauci like was essentially keeping records or a diary on like whatever, I guess, a government computer. But then I
Mhm.
guess he never took it with him or erased it, or I don't know.
Well, you have to, any notes that you take have to be handed back to
I mean, that
Congress,
makes sense.
government.
But
Yeah.
then, yeah, I guess he may put too much faith in the institution of like, as in like taking notes on a government computer as opposed to your personal computer.
Yeah. What do you think about it, Prime?
First of all, is my sound coming in okay?
Yeah. Yeah, you
So
sound
far,
good.
so good. Yeah.
Okay. I was having trouble earlier today with someone else. Um, and my computer's acting up. If I don't restart before the streams every time, every time it gets whatever.
Yeah, me too, dude.
November
I have
4th.
to restart every time too. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's whatever. But okay. So the thing that about this story that I don't know how much I can mm, adjudicate this because
Mhm.
I mean I just don't I don't have the expertise. I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm sorry.
But that's why
You don't
that's
have
why
to
your
apologize.
opinion's so
And
important. I'm actually really invested into your opinion because that's so interesting to me.
yeah, you are
Yeah.
whatever, quote unquote, an outsider, or
Yeah,
like more reflective of the public,
exactly.
right?
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Whether
All
I,
right.
and
So
yeah, you probably might take it as an insult, okay, but it's not.
you are representative of who you find out people we find out in the wild. You know, with
Yeah.
like
The wild
maybe
type.
You're
slight
representative of those losers.
You're the wild
average
type
or
control
slightly
group.
below average IQ.
That's
No.
exactly what I said, verbatim.
Like, what does what does a regular unimpressive individual like
No.
an aggressively average person think?
Oh, it's
That's
like
why you're so valuable
it's like
here.
Deja vu,
An
is what I was saying.
aggressively average person. That's so funny.
Okay, all right. So my thoughts are about these diaries. So like, you know, and I'm sure you guys felt the same way, like had the same thought about like what we discussed last week, or I think it was last week, with the climate scientists, right?
Mm.
And like their thoughts when their notes were leaked. Like that's what what came to mind for me.
Mm,
And
that's awesome.
and yeah, and so like I didn't I, like hearing about what was in. I didn't like go through the 1,000 pages or whatever. Like
I
there's a
didn't do
lot of
that either.
entries, right? Yeah, yeah. So I just like went off of what I could, glean from stories, right? Like
Mhm.
what was in these pages, what was important. Um, and like, so I wanted to keep in mind, like, oh yeah, like there was another moment where like, a scientist was writing a private communication to himself in this case, but um, like they were torn apart, for something that's just like innocent and whatever. The uh the part where he's talking about himself, right? And he's talking about how like he's getting all this media attention. That feels like overblown to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, he's like such a narcissist. I don't know. He's just like talking about like, yeah, man, I got a lot of media. And he's like, he says something along the lines like, I might be like the most like covered individual in America now or something like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so well known because that's true. His name was on everyone's lips, at least in the states,
Everyone.
right?
It was
Everyone's
crazy.
lips. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And
sure.
arguably, the whole world was like going on his word, or rather, people were looking for direction from the United States, and
Yeah,
he was the figurehead of the United States for that particular situation. And so, like,
yeah,
yeah,
100%. Yeah, you beat me to it. That the to the extent, especially for smaller nations, right, who don't have like the infrastructure to necessarily handle this themselves and like make their own like a decision, right? Just like how like the FDA kind of like offloads. Like people offload work onto the FDA. If the FDA say it's safe, like, all right, well, I guess it's good enough because we don't have the infrastructure to do otherwise, right? I'm sure to a certain extent, Fauci's words are being transmitted to the world, right? And people are like, okay, well, if the America says that's what it is, I mean, they got the best scientists, so sure, right? So when he says this, like that seems completely reasonable, right? And it would be okay if like he was a bit proud of that, right? Like look at me, right? Look at me, mom, right? Like like from wherever his beginnings were. I'm not sure if they were actually humble or anything, but like let's assume he had humble beginnings, right? And then now, like like the leader of a global pandemic response. Yeah, actually, like talk your shit. Talk to yourself, right? Remember, is that like this is like him recounting a conversation he had with someone, right? And he has to impress upon them, I am great. Like everyone loves me, right? Like that's not what's happening there. So like at least from what I read, and there might again, there's I didn't actually read through the diaries, so reserve my judgment, right? It just that seems fine, right? It's whatever. The
no,
part
I
that
agree.
like yeah, sorry, don't
I
you're
was
saying
saying,
something?
I was saying, I was agreeing with you. Go for it.
Okay, sure. Um, the part that I'm gonna have trouble with here, right? And this is the part I'm like, I don't know what to say about this. Especially because I didn't read it because there's some I know I'm missing context here. But like it's the most explosive part. That would be the point where he's recounting a meeting with experts, and uh the experts disagree, and um there are experts who say that COVID-19 came from the lab leak, right, rather than the market thing. So what I don't know, right, and again this might be, maybe I missed this, or maybe this is within the diaries or whatever, right, I don't know. But like, one, I don't know how many people there were there, right? So like if this is like a group of 100, right, and then like a small portion of individuals say, oh well, maybe this is a lab leak type thing, right, then it's like whatever, yeah, of course people have different opinions, right? um if it's like most of a large group that says it's a lab leak, and then only a few that say it's wet
It was
market,
9 out of 10 dentists recommend.
yeah, not exactly, right. That changes context, right? If most of the experts that you assemble, or at least that you consult with, are saying one thing, and then you tell us a completely different thing without, I don't know, a very good reason, that's something notable, right? I don't know. And again, if I'm missing something, please, people tell me. I want to know, right? Um, but like I that seems reasonable for people to feel like they're lied to. If you say it's like there's no question, of course it's not a lab leak, right? It's definitely this wet market origin, but like the experts are telling experts that you assemble because you respect their opinion, and they are saying something different. Yeah, it's a big goddamn deal. That's a big deal. And so like I think I'm missing stuff, but like I want to hear what you guys' opinions on this because I don't know.
Yeah. So, if I remember correctly, and also I have not read all the thousands of pages, just little excerpts and paragraphs here and there. Um, if if I'm recalling the meeting that you're referring to correctly, I think it was I think it was about 11 or a dozen or so scientists. I think like the numbers were, again, if memory serves me correctly, of like it was like only basically two out of the 11 or 12 scientists rejected the lab leak, or pretty much were like more or less in the camp of like almost certainly not lab leak, as opposed to the rest. It was not, from what I understand, it was not the case of like two were rejecting it and therefore the other 9 or 10 were accepting it. It was more like these people were pretty confident in their position, and the rest were, let's say, uncertain, or some were, let's say, on the fence towards lab leak and on the fence towards wet market type of
Okay.
situation.
There's a
Uh,
spectrum of only two so just to stop you there, there's a spectrum, and this is what I heard as well, right? I didn't want to like say any numbers because I didn't want to be wrong and it looks again
yeah, and
aggressively
I'm not
wrong.
100% sure that my
um
numbers are correct,
uh
but
but yeah, but like okay, so this is a room full of individuals he's talking to, and it might not be in a room, but I'm just saying like a somebody could fit in a room. And he's talking to like about a dozen individuals. Two of them are solidly against lab leak, right? Like it's wet market, maybe something else, but just like definitely not lab leak. But then the rest of the assembled individuals have a spectrum of opinions leaning towards lab leak or to something else. Maybe I'm unsure. I don't want to give my solid opinion, but there's a spectrum for the rest. That's what you're saying.
yeah, that is essentially a summary of my understanding of what
Yeah.
I recall reading.
Let's
And
go
while
through it.
I'm reasonably
Okay.
confident that it's about a dozen, because like uh, I believe Fauci was understandably looking for world-renowned like experts in the field specifically for this, and there's only so many people that are qualified to do that. It's almost certainly not like 100 or 50. Like that should be narrowed down to a dozen or so, if maybe at most like 20 to 30 people, in my mind.
Okay.
And,
So,
Great.
mhm.
okay. First of all, even Rand Paul hasn't read this damn thing. He put it into AI, and the first page is AI summaries. Okay, so there's already like the anti-vaxxers in chat saying we haven't read it, dude. He like Rand Paul put it into Chat GPT. Okay, um, okay, so January 31st, Fahar patches him into a call with Anderson. Uh, Holmes was already in the loop. They're not talking about internet rumors. They are staring at the furin cleavage site, discussing deliberate insertion and weighing whether the virus had escaped from the laboratory. So January 31st, 2020, I'm assuming that's what he's saying. If it's 2021, I don't know. I mean, no, it would have to be 2021 because the sequencing didn't come out until February 2020. So it had to be 2021. He's got to put a better prompt in there, Rand. You got to put the prompt into ChatGPT so it puts in the date. Before most Americans knew there was an origin debate, the government's top infectious disease official was already confronting the lab scenario. That's weird. After the Jan 31st meeting, the proposed larger group split into two tracks, the international and the American academies. Fauci was not at the edge of the origins inquiry, blah, blah, blah. So then February 1, the call included Collins, Farrar, Valance, Anderson, Holmes, Voucher, Dresden, Gary, others. According to Fauci's own account, Voucher and Drosten argued for a natural origin. The rest, through deliberate insertion, was possible. Through
So it
Xi's,
sounds like it is. There's the two that I mentioned of like the
yeah,
two that were
Yeah.
natural and not wet market.
yeah. This is before. So this is before Warraby and Picard were the big papers that came out in 2022. So this is before this. Okay, they are
Yeah,
literally talking
this is
about
early
this.
days of
Yes, they didn't
the
have
narrative.
and it's good. It's good that they are actually sitting there and discussing this. If they weren't even discussing the possibilities that it leaked from the lab, that'd be a huge red flag, right? Or if they were saying that it was only a lab leak, I would be like, what? They're not even talking about zoonotic spillover. Of course, they're like debating it. That's a good thing that that's happening. Because of Zhang Li's coronavirus work hanging over the discussion, Fauci wrote, "We could not let this go." Then the public story hardened. Um, on February 6th, the government's first formal review found no clear evidence of the malfeasance, but still had the issue needed to be investigated. Okay. So April 17th, Fauci was telling the country the virus was totally consistent with the natural species jump. Okay, that's still true. By May, he was brushing aside a laboratory accident. Um, dude, it's like so frustrating. Even the AI is like bloviating here. May 2021. So yeah, it was in 2021. Fauci wrote that the HHS public officials resisted an NIH statement, proactive talking points, and directed responses to the congressional inquiries from Wuhan. Warning was blunt: if the government stayed quiet, it would look like they were covering things up, which is true. That was why the WHO did like go in and did their own investigations on top of the Chinese investigations. Fauci pushes back on the FBI's lab leak case in July 2021. Fauci met with Cameron and Bitter, the NSC's director for the intelligence program. Fauci wrote that the FBI had, quote, no idea what they're talking about because it was convinced as COVID originated from a lab leak. He urged the NSC officials to work closely with Anderson, Holmes, Gary, Russmount, the same scientific circle that was at the center of the origins. Yeah, so the people that actually know what they're talking about. There you go. I mean, like it's like they were discussing the thing that everyone wants them to discuss about, and then the science came out and settled it. So like, why would that? I don't understand. Like it's wild
So
that. Go ahead.
what it sounds like, I'm gonna try to. Hmm, I want to be charitable to the other side, right? To
Sure.
our anti-vax, or at least anti-Fauci friends, right? Um, like so, I was trying to follow the sequencing of events,
Hmm.
and it seems like so early on in the pandemic, we don't have the sequencing yet, right? The genetic sequencing in this case, right? We don't have that yet. And instead, we have is scientists who have an educated opinion, who are like relaying their thoughts to Dr. Fauci. And then uh, they are, it seems, quite split on what this could be, right? Only two individuals, it seems, are solidly wet market, right? Wuhan, a wet market. And then the rest are like, oh, yeah, man, it could be, it could be a lab leak, right? There's evidence for some sort of insertion. Um, and so, but then what Fauci does is he takes that and then he goes to the public and he says it's definitely not the lab leak, right? Like that seems to be the. Am I wrong here? Did I miss something?
I think you're largely correct in terms of like the broad, zoomed out view. I
And it
believe.
seems like, yeah. And again, I like I imagine what a person who's like solidly against it, Fauci would say. It's like, well, Fauci seems to have um, uh, some entanglements with this Chinese lab and with this type of research, right? The gain of function research seems to have some entanglements, and then maybe a reason to not present the full story. So you have a situation where a room full of experts he assembled tells him something very differently,
Hmm.
right? Mostly tells him something very differently. And then what he reports to us is the opposite.
Yeah.
Um,
So I can. Uh, Go ahead, Greg. You had something to say.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, I guess. Hey, Rapture. So I guess I'm corrected. So we had the sequence by January
2020.
2020. So it wasn't
Yeah.
February, but it was January 2020. So they had the
Okay,
sequence at this time. Um,
okay.
but
So
again,
then they
like,
so they more of an educated guess, and still the
yeah,
experts said it might be a lab leak.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone thought that there could be a chance. Like I always thought that there was a better chance than not it was zoonotic spillover event, but people, it was more of like a 90. It was like more of a. I thought it was a 95.5 that it was natural zoonotic spillover. Now it's like 99.999.
I was like
That
80,
it's a
20,
natural.
90, 10. Well,
Okay.
90, 10,
What? There's
zoonotic.
a lot of numbers here.
Yeah.
Can you
So
you do it again? What's the split?
sorry. I was confident that it didn't outbreak from a lab before.
No, I mean Corey. Corey,
No, yeah.
like sent
So
the
my
Go.
stats
initial
numbers.
assessment, as in like, when when I was under lockdown, starting in March 13, 2020, and
Yeah.
I was, tracking the viruses, like, uh, my assessment, although I'm definitely not a qualified expert in terms of virologist, okay, just maybe, hopefully above average in terms of general knowledge in molecular biology. But yeah, I was like operating more or less, or my analysis was like 80-20, as in 80% or 90% zoonotic origin, or 10 or 20% lab leak.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay.
here's his
Then,
notes.
just like Greg, to put a cap on it, when the actual more evidence came out, is in, as Greg highlighted, there were some let's say landmark papers that really skewed it. That they did not push it to like 100%, but like, yeah, it's like 95, 98% zoonotic origin.
So this is his first diary entry about this, May 26th. These are his own words. Before it was the ChatGPT summary of Rand Paul. Now this is his own words. May 26th, 2021. So the situation continues to get out of control with regard to the press reports concerning my flip-flopping concerning the theory of the origin of the virus. I had always said that the very high likelihood is that the virus originated naturally from an animal reservoir jumping to a human. Yes, just like every other virus in the history of the world. However, over the past couple of days, given the amount of speculation over the possibility of a lab leak, I have been saying that no one is 100% certain of the origin, including me, and so I am calling for a thorough investigation. God damn it. Wish she hadn't fucking followed. Anyway, that is backed by Andy Slavitt as well as a number of other government officials. Calling for an investigation is merely to put to rest the extraordinary amount of speculation and conspiracies. Thank you for doing that. He put it to rest, guys. However, this is being interpreted as Fauci flip-flopping again. The far right is really amazing in their distortion of reality. We had a hearing today before the Senate Appropriations Subcommittee chaired by Senator Patty Murray with Ranking Minority Roy Blunt. As expected, several Republican senators got a bit snarky with me, asking about the questions of the origins of COVID-19. In particular, Kennedy, Rand Paul, Kennedy, Louisiana. In addition, Braun, Rubio, and Graham all asked questions with a hint of the conspiracy theory that somehow that the Chinese let the virus escape from the lab, and the possibility that NIH inadvertently contributed to this by funding the lab to do research on the coronavirus. This type of conspiracy theory is getting very hot and heavy of late, with multiple publications promoting all sorts of theories. Let's see. We are bombarded with he's just like taking notes, I guess, of all these things, and then he had, here we go. This is another one. So that was May, okay, and this is July, okay. So this is a little bit later, and this is his actual words from the excerpt that we read earlier about this meeting that we were talking about. Quote, I had a very important meeting today with the NSC led by Cameron and Bitter, who is the Senior Director for Intelligence Programs at NSC. We met in the EEOB SCIF and discussed the briefing document that the NSC, the National Security Council, had presented to the president a week ago. Beth wanted me to have an official briefing because of the catastrophic briefing that the amateurs from the CIA gave several weeks ago. Oh my God. There are new surprises for me in the briefing, except that it became clear that the FBI had no idea what they're talking about since they are convinced the origin of COVID-19 is from a laboratory leak. The reasons that they give do not make any sense. In contrast, the NSA
What
gave...
is the FBI gonna say about,
I know, what the fuck are
are
they
there any-
talking about? What kind of
It's like,
scientist is in the CIA?
It's like getting the FBI to, like, diagnose your car.
Exactly.
It's like,
Like, what are you talking about? Like, in contrast, the NSA gave some reasonable hypotheses leaning heavily towards a natural jump of species in the environment. I spent some time explaining to Mayor and Beth my own theories that the Chinese act like they're covering up something, even though they have nothing to cover up. They manifested this in their response to the original SARS-CoV 1 when they insisted this was just an atypical influenza, when in fact it was the beginning of a coronavirus pandemic. In addition, they likely shot themselves in the foot when they denied the presence of wild animals in the market when we know they were present and the Chinese cleaned out the market before adequate testing of animals could occur. So this is like really tough. So this is good. This is a good point. I mean, they cleaned out the animals from the market that they thought there was a natural spillover event at, and a lot of people are like, "Well, they're trying to cover something up," and I'm like, isn't that good though? Like, wouldn't you try to clean some? If you thought that there was a spillover event happening, you'd want to stop that from happening as soon as possible. They literally let the WHO in to take samples before that happened, before after the animals had been cleared out, but the stalls were still there and everything was there, so they still could get the DNA and the RNA swabs. It wasn't like they weren't allowing testing. So I still think that that's kind of like a weird thing. But okay, back to it. In addition, they likely shot themselves in the foot when they denied the presence of. In essence, they clouded the possibility of proving a natural emergence. I don't think so. I mean, this is also before Picard and Warraby came out. So this is again, this is a year before that. I urge the NSC folks to work closely with the qualified card-carrying evolutionary biologist, such as Christian Anderson. He's an absolute awesome Twitter follower too. He's really good. He's at Scripps. Um, Eddie Holmes, Bob Gary, Andy Rombart, among others. I also explained to them that the multiple reasons epidemiologically and molecularly why it is almost certain that the virus evolved naturally from a species jump, even though I emphasize that I keep an open mind about the possibility of a lab leak. However, in this regard, I emphasize that just because two alternatives are possible, that does not mean that they are equally probable. I believe they understood where I was coming from, and it turned out to be a very good meeting. Yeah, they told famously that was the end of that. That was the end. So what do you guys think of that? Listening to his
Like,
actual words, that was actually really
well,
interesting.
that was interesting, but I think what I'm most interested in is like the moment of this meeting, because so the reason why this is my focus. I'm not sure if our anti-Fauci friends, if this is their focus, right? So if you're in chat and I'm misrepresenting you, I do apologize. I don't mean to do that. But like the reason why this is my focus is how I was first introduced to the story. Once the diaries leaked, right? Um, I was watching a news channel, and they felt like they had been lied to. They're like, oh, like, this is an example of the authorities lying to us. Fauci, he said one thing and it was actually a different thing. And then these people were convinced that it was a lab leak afterwards. So they're like, yeah, it was 100%. This proves it was the case. He was lying to us.
There's a lot
And
of
the
the far
reason
left that believe that it's a lab leak for a lot of
and the
things.
reason
Fucking
why,
Jon Stewart.
right? That's John's. Yeah, but he's not far left. But still, but he does. But the reason why was because they read the Wall Street Journal article, a version of this, right? And I couldn't get that. This is I fucking. Anytime someone comes on the Wall Street Journal, it's very frustrating because I don't have a membership. I can't get past the fucking payroll. But like their write up of this makes it look extremely negative. And I really wanted to see exactly what was in there, but I couldn't get my hands on that, and that's important because of like because I'm like, all right, well I'll just go other places, right? I'll just wherever else. But everyone else had a different focus on it, right? Like they were talking about like Fauci's relationship with Trump and
Mm.
like how he felt like polarizing the relationship was falling or whatever, right? But there's a whole bunch of headlines there, and that's what they were focusing on, not so much this moment. And so like um I this is what I want to know: am I missing something? Like and like when I was watching this news video, I'm like, these people are fucking hysterical. They're on the left, right? But like these people are fucking hysterical. They're like they're positive. It was all a lie. It was all made up, right? And not that it can't be. right? Like, because I'm no microbiologist. Like these two know a lot more than me, right? Like,
How dare
but
you
like the
not
lab,
be a micro?
yeah, but like from a very much outsider's perspective, a lab leak seems like a very reasonable explanation for these things, right? And so like I've been on the fence the entire time on this, right? And I cannot adjudicate it for myself. But so when this comes out, right? Like as a person again who's on the fence, hearing the way this was presented to me, it sounded hysterical. That like it's definitely a lie. We were definitely lied to. Like the jury is in, right? So I'm like, I need to hear to find this piece, this pivotal moment. So if you have that, I'd love to hear that part.
The two that he was asking his friends about. Is that what you
Well,
mean?
the meeting of the 12 individuals, the
Yeah.
scientists, the yeah.
Um. That was the page 14 that we went to at the very beginning. Um. Let me see. I just asked AI. I got it. Page 14. Um. Okay, here's the February 1st. Oh my God, February 1st, 2020. Conference call. Okay, there is a lot of people in there. Okay, again, February 2020. It's crazy. Anyway, there was not total agreement about the likelihood of deliberate insertion. Faucier said he was sure that this could occur naturally and we should not waste our time and divert efforts to pursue this. This is expected of him since he was the original gain of function person with Kawako. How also, Drosten was with Ron. The rest felt that the deliberate insertion was possible, and given the fact that Zhang Li Shi at the University of Wuhan has been working for years in gain of function in coronaviruses to allow adaptation of the spike protein to bind to the human ACE2 receptor, we could not let this go. We decided to have Jeremy and Francis to contact Tedros with Stuart Simpson's help. I arranged to do this to see if Tedros could convene experts. Meanwhile, the DHS and DOT and FAA are working hard on the logistics of diverting plans to select airports for the screening, with the capability of screening with questions in quarantine or moving to voluntary isolation. Oh my God, they were actually talking about that, bro. Oh my God. That was it. I didn't know that they were actually going to try to quarantine people coming into the country, dude. That would have been the move to like save like hundreds of thousands of lives, but Trump didn't do that. That's wild. Dude, so again, that was all bullshit. I had some MAGA on a panel talk about this and say that was the slam dunk too. So basically there was not totally agreement on the likelihood of an initial deliberate insertion. So there's only two that said it was absolutely zoonotic spillover and we shouldn't even waste our
Oh,
time.
that's the two that I was
Yeah.
referring to.
It wasn't that like it wasn't possible. It was just that they shouldn't spend time on it. So it was a
Was he a
complete lie.
total? Does it tell you like how many individuals
Yeah, there
were
was
there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12. I
12.
mean, the
Yep.
idea that like
that should be the meeting that I was referring
yeah,
to.
two out of 12 that are like saying that we shouldn't. I mean, the other that they're not saying that it's not possible, that lab leak isn't possible, that zoonotic spillover isn't possible. They're saying that it's so likely to occur that we shouldn't waste our time and divert efforts to pursue that. They're making the claim that it's so that we shouldn't even like look into it, but obviously they did. That's February. This is February 2020. The last, and then the other. This was the other diaries mentioned that we did. That was a year later, and they're still like, and the FBI is coming over with this nonsense. So this is completely different. Wow, that's crazy. That I did no
But yeah,
idea.
I think
That's
this is
wild,
in
dude. The
February
people, the
2020.
Republicans are completely lying about it. Then they are completely lying about that meeting.
Well, I mean, not that I necessarily want to give the benefit of the doubt, but I can imagine it that they're just misinformed, as in like they're
Oh,
They're
dude. No, they did not read this, and they said that they did, and they're using this diary as a
well,
smoking gun.
I agree there. As in, like they think they probably got a summary, or like they're reading articles like in the Wall Street Journal, and like they're taking their word like, oh, this other person read it, and like this is an actual reflection of like what occurred in the meeting. But like, hopefully, if you actually go by the actual, I guess, words by the person that attended the meeting, it's like there's a lot of nuance there. And like the only
Dude,
thing that you could say for certain is like there were two people that were pretty much like saying more or less like we're highly confident it's zoonotic origin, and let's not waste time going down the rabbit hole of lab leak.
dude, I mean,
About it.
even the AI summary is saying, according to Fauci's own account, Fauci and Drosten argued for a natural origin. No, they are arguing that it was obviously a natural origin, and they shouldn't even like investigate the origin of it. "Quote unquote," the rest thought deliberate insertion was possible. Of course, it was. It is a possibility, but it's not. It's a possibility, not probability thing. It's exactly what
Well,
he was
I
talking about.
think, and actually, I think so. Even though we started out, or let's say Prime started off as due to my framing, like Prime is the outsider and the uninformed, average person. But it's like I think this is like the good example of like this is one of the reasons why we rely on institutions of like if you don't have the requisite knowledge or expertise, understandably, as in I don't have requisite knowledge or expertise on an infinite number of topics, and
Mhm.
I only have a very narrow field of expertise. Just so happens that it applies here, but it's like how does an institution communicate to the general public that type of messaging where like even though Fauci said, I think as you read out, of like he's essentially in the camp or high probability of like zoonotic origin. But as I think his exact words were, that does not mean he's 100% certain, and he keeps an open mind. But then there's unfortunately people that take that as like, oh, if it's not 100%, then there's the chance that it's 0%, as in like, oh,
Hmm.
as in like it's totally now equally probable that lab leak is a thing.
And I think though the other part that like I said it previously, but like I don't think you addressed is that like Fauci has entanglements, right? Professional entanglements, and it seeming, my understanding, unless I'm completely wrong, maybe this was completely made up by the right wing. And okay, well then whatever, right? But like my understanding, he has professional entanglements with gain of function and financial entanglements, like here, and so like there from what I've heard from my anti-Fauci friends, again, I'm hoping, trying to do a good job of representing you here, is that like, yeah, he's got motivated reasoning to say, oh, certainly zoonotic origin, like, well, of course it is, right? And it's silly to think otherwise. And like and again, like from if I'm reading it from their perspective, like this meeting tells me that it's not silly. That like especially if the in January 2020 was a did is that when we had the sequencing, or was
Yeah,
that
Yeah,
January
January
2021?
2020.
So we had a
2020.
sequencing 21.
Yeah,
So
January
so
2021
these
is
are
when we had the vaccine.
okay. So in January 2020, we have the sequencing of the DNA, and like these scientists are looking at it. They're
Mhm.
looking at it. It's sequenced, right?
Yeah.
And from their professional opinion, well, yeah, it could be a lab leak. It could be like human insertion here, right? And then, but the response that we get, it's like it's definitely not.
So
Do you see
let's
how
put it
altogether this might be problematic? Go ahead.
let's put it into context. So what that sequencing allows them to do. So they're not just looking at the sequence, and they're not just staring at the sequence. What they did, and what I did immediately after getting this, you basically align it with other viruses that we know the sequences of. So you see like how they actually stack up and which portions of the virus are different. And
Mm.
that highlights the the different portions of the genome.
So you get like, so you get a baseline. So I'm just trying to
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
translate this. You get a baseline, right? This virus is the code virus, right? We know this code virus is of natural origin, right? This is a genetic sequence, right? And then we're using this one because it's similar to the COVID version, right? Like the other one we're looking at, and we're comparing these two sequences, and we're saying like, hey, between these, right?
Mhm.
Like where like the mutations that are different, right? Like
Mhm.
the mutations there, like do those seem natural or unnatural, right? Like manually placed.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
You don't know, you just know that there's a sequence mismatch. So you align it, and it basically through computer generation, it says these portions are the same, these portions are the same, these chunks are the same, these chunks are different, these nucleotides, this right here is different, this is right here. So what they're looking at is that furin cleavage site, which is the part that grabs onto the handle of the cell that ultimately infects. They're looking at that and seeing how it changes and how it's different than what we know that's already existed. So that's what they're looking at. They're looking at the sequence, but they're comparing it against other viral sequences and kind of being like, okay, like what parts are different? How can this be explained, and that kind of thing. So it's not just that it's not just the sequence. Now they are unlocking genetics. Now they're unlocking phylogenetics and molecular biology and all these other things that now that with this sequence now we can actually do something with it. And Fauci, like gain of function research is something that is absolutely integral for molecular biology as a field. So there is no like entanglements. I mean, I'm as entrapped. I'm actually more entrapped on gain of function than he is. As a molecular biologist, that's basically all I do. Trying to figure out how these little changes in the genome give a big difference in the cell, or biologically what happens when that happens. So as a virologist, you're looking at like how the virus changes in terms of infectivity or mortality, or the ability to bind to a new cell type or something like that. But as a molecular biologist and as a genetic engineer, I'm thinking like, what are the different changes that we can make more lipids or oils or antibodies or whatever target protein that I want. So that's just how we do things. That's just that, like gain of function research is just how molecular biology exists in the world. It's incredibly important, and that's how we understand how, like the hantavirus, when we immediately could come out once we got the sequence being like, oh, okay, it's a virus that doesn't have pandemic potential. It's because we know that the sequences in that hantavirus strains, well, it was similar to other sequences. And so those mutations aren't that dangerous. So therefore these aren't that dangerous. So it's like people that bemoan gain of function research just literally they don't understand what they're talking about. Like they don't it's okay. It's not what they're thinking about is like how do we make like bioweapons, how do we make this thing like 100% lethal, and you're just like, that's not what anyone's doing. That's just not, it gives off like this, like, bad guy, bad scientist thing, but it really, that's not what's happening.
So it's like I'm gonna let's see if this metaphor works, right? You
Mhm.
can tell me if it's shit. Don't be afraid to tell me that. It's like, hey, I don't know what a surgeon does, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm just like learning, right? Like, whoa, what is this crazy word world of surgery, right? And I walk into an operating room, and then like I see the tray of tools, and then I see like various cutting implements, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my god, this is dangerous. I mean, like, look at, like,
Mhm.
they use this on people. They
Yeah.
like they cut people. Like, is
Yeah.
that what they regularly do? Right? Like, is that, hey, are they just like, is this whole purpose of this thing
Yeah.
to like hurt
They
people? I mean,
cut people
when I
open.
use a knife,
They cut people
when
open.
I use a knife, it's to either like prepare food, right? To or it's to hurt a person,
Mhm.
and that's my only perspective.
Yeah.
And but like that's just surgery. This is like the regular parts of surgery, the boring parts. Yeah, these are just the regular tools that we use to accomplish an
Yeah.
operation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So like
Or,
a
well, if
video.
I can maybe also just
Go for it.
chime in as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
maybe
Mhm.
also a crude analogy of like the ease, or let's say the path of least resistance to understand something like a virus, I would like zoom out or go to the macro scale of like, early days in medicine, like how do we figure out like what the human body is doing, or like what techniques were used? Like back in the day, they used to vivisect dogs to all while they're alive, see like the heart pumping and all that stuff, because
Yeah.
it's like
Bring it
but
back.
what do you do with a virus that doesn't have organelles and all it has is pretty much a protein code and a genetic sequence, genetic information? All you
Mhm.
can do is tinker around with the genetic sequence and then determine the consequences of that.
Exactly.
And so that's you only
Oh.
have access to that tool.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There's
Okay, hold
no other
on.
way.
No, this I love the way that our friend Corey explained that. Because that makes sense to me,
Yeah.
right?
That's a good analogy.
Like yeah, like we do this in all kinds of areas, right?
Yeah.
Where like we don't know a thing, and so like we like make changes, right? Like we start like we're examining what's effectively a black box, and we're like, okay, well then, what happens if we change this thing, right? Or we break this thing? How does that work? Now we know, okay, this sequence, or maybe this sequence in relation to other sequences, um, does this, right? This is the outcome for that because we made a change. Otherwise, we don't know, right? Because of course, like just because you have a genetic sequence, us as humans, our knowledge of genetics isn't so in DNA isn't so deep that like we can just look at a sequence and know, oh, this is what that does, right?
Not with
Exactly.
So
certainty. Exactly.
Exactly.
now without certainty, yeah. And
There's
so
a real world.
instead, yeah. So instead we like take pieces and we just like swap them out, right? And like what happens, right? And then we like make inferences from that, and slowly through the collection of those efforts, right, we start mapping out, okay, this is how this function, this is what this sequence does.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly right. Like if you can maybe imagine whatever 10,000 years from now, whatever that human population looks like, but like whatever,
Mhm.
that a human that has no conception of a car and they come across a car and they want to figure out what it does, like what approach you're
Mhm.
going to take. You just got to start breaking things, and it's like, well, what's the consequence of like whatever taking this out, and just like more or less just like,
What's the consequence of putting a flame towards this black goo here?
yeah,
Let's find out.
exactly. And there can be good. You can there's as in like once you tinker around enough, like you can probably get to the point like, okay, I know how to make the car faster. Okay, uh, but like your approach is almost always going to be, it's like I just got to go in and start breaking things down and see what the consequence of that is, and that's ultimately what gain of function research is. But
Yeah.
sometimes it can lead to making the virus more pathogenic. But then if you do that, now you know what needs to occur at a genetic level for the virus to become more pathogenic and more transmissible.
Yeah. So like the video game analogy, like playing World of Warcraft, like I would have a bunch of gear that I didn't know what the best combination was in order to do the most damage, right? So I would take
Mhm.
like I was a rogue, so I had a bunch of like when I got after a raid, I would have a bunch of new gear and I wouldn't know what combination would make the best DPS, so do the most damage. So I would do this thing that we have this parsing program where you basically put in all your equipment to this program, and it tells you like this is what your DPS is, and then I would change to one of my rings, and then I would run the simulation, and then it would tell me this is what the damage is with that combination, and then I would change one thing, and then they'd say this is the damage with this combination. So in that
Mhm.
way, like we do the same thing with viruses. We change one thing at a time, and then see, hey, how does this thing happen? What's this thing happen? But then sometimes it's like it's your old your new weapon with your old ring or something that you wouldn't have thought, and you're like, why is this better? And you're like, oh, it's because, well, it's the crit chance. Actually, the crit chance is what you need instead of the hit chance because of the proc, and then you have like this weird combination. You're like, oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah.
wouldn't have known that. And
The
then
critical chance is high enough that like it the effect, right, like
yeah,
poison effect, it procs at a certain rate that like ends up like this is actually really powerful, right?
exactly.
um where it might not work so well for other piece of equipment because maybe the crit chance is too low or something like that, right?
Exactly.
um I hear what you're saying.
So you have that with
So this
compounding. We have that compounding with DNA and viruses. Basically, you have
yeah,
that 3D
yeah.
real world stuff that you don't really know the combinations are, and then they come together, and you're like, oh damn, wow, this is crazy.
And so you're saying that like what the both of you are saying is that like when we're talking about gain of function, this is just like, you know, the basic analysis. This is the analysis process. Hey, I got like myself a new virus or bacteria, I guess, a new microorganism, right? Like, what does this thing do? How does
Mm-hmm.
it tick, right? Like
Yep.
what's the best way of other than like, you know, affecting something, you know, infecting it in something, right? And just seeing what happens, right? It's to you know, take apart DNA and insert other things and, you know, collapse it. And that's just like regular standard. This
Yep.
is what we're going to be doing today,
Exactly.
right?
So like
That's pretty much like the universal approach when
exactly.
studying microorganisms
So that
and viruses.
the new raid items, the new loot are like those new sequences that you find in the bat caves that you sequence and you're like, what are these mutations and how do they work? And then you take those sequences and then try them and put them into other like new viruses or whatever, new kind of like your dummy or your in this scenario the wow, the you know the simulator, you know, or something like that. Try to see if those would what they do, you know, trying to figure out those new sequences and then try it out. So yeah, you have to discover them through the bat caves, then try them out at home in your
So
simulator or
then
whatever.
so then to say, right, like I said previously, like, oh, okay, well, you know, Fauci has professional entanglements with gain of function research, right? But we to say that, like, you know, this surgeon has professional entanglements with, like, you know, scalp makers. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's just
Yeah.
he does the scalpel. That's what he does. That's his whole thing. He uses scalpels.
If let's say, in other words, if he wasn't doing any gain of function research and he was the national infectious disease head, I'd be like, well, what are you doing? Like, what do you, that would be like, I'm the commissioner of
mm,
football and we're spending all of our time swimming. And you're like, what? And we're like, we're not going to do NFL anymore. And you're like, you're the commissioner of the football league. You're like, yeah, we're changing it up. We're doing swimming this year. Okay, bud. That's the whole point of your
mm,
whole thing is that you should be researching and making this thing better. Why would it wouldn't make any
mm.
sense?
Okay. All right, that's very helpful. I mean, like, it's very helpful, and I don't imagine I'm the only person who maybe didn't have a full picture of this,
I mean, it's
or
probably
maybe
the
I'm
majority,
just
and that's why it makes it so difficult, and understandably so. Like, I don't know how you message these types of things. I'm still
yeah.
figuring it out myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Um.
I actually, it's interesting because this is like this is the thing where I'm a molecular biologist and I'm doing population genetics and all that kind of stuff. So
Mm,
I'm like really um, an expert on this part. So that I talk about
mm,
this a lot just and it's also an example of like misinformation and disinformation. So in my
mm,
brain as a content creator, I'm like talking about this like 10 times a week or whatever, but people are
mm,
still contacting me and leaving comments and stuff that this is actually really helpful because they were like leaning towards this stuff. So it's interesting for me to yeah, it's interesting for me to go through it and figure out how I can better explain it. So it helps me as well.
yeah. So it's interesting again because in the news clip that I had seen, right, like, you know, because I heard these people talk about gain of function previously. It's like, you know, it's this is dangerous research, you know,
Mhm.
and like, you know, like the basically the only conclusion they had is like, well, you're doing this for some sort of nefarious purpose. Like, oh, the first of all, we're talking about the Chinese, right? It's easy
Mhm.
to like insert, like, you
True.
know, like villainous schemes, right?
Yeah.
The Chinese are always not up to no good, and so like within that context, it's like, okay, this is a lab, and we don't know what's going on inside the lab, and I don't think we actually have. Maybe you guys can correct me on this, but I don't think we have like a full view of everything that went on
No,
in
we
that
do.
lab.
No, we do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hidden behind a level of secrecy,
No, we
right?
do. We know what's
And
going
then,
on. We know what's going on. They do
oh, sorry,
share.
never mind. You're saying the opposite.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do share. They do share with it. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, they did share. Okay,
That's
great.
the whole
So you
point.
feel like
That's
we
the
don't.
whole point. That was the Eco Health Alliance and Peter Daszak and them actually like coordinating, and that coordination
Mm,
is where they think that the nefarious part came. because we were communicating and because we were getting information from there and we were giving them money to make sure that they had proper PPE and they were doing the right tests and all that kind of stuff. People are like, oh, so now you're entangled in there. And that's where you gave money to them in order to do this stuff. That's where the whole conspiracy starts.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, yeah. It's a tough situation. It's a tough situation because, like, yeah, this is the entire the entire industry, right? Or field of research, whatever, is a black box to us, to the outside, and all of a sudden it becomes extremely important, like like deadly important. World economy breaking important, right? And now we all have to examine, like, okay, what's happening in this place, and we don't have
And just like,
context.
sorry to interrupt, but
No,
just like,
please.
I think before 2020, I'm reasonably sure like the general public had no idea or even had even heard of PCR. I think now it's, I don't know whether it's more universal, but I think there's way more people, at least it's on their brain and they have a somewhat a loose understanding what PCR is or how it's used in medical diagnostics.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's like, yeah, we just don't have a good insight in this. And then, like, there's a lot of headlines that are written by other people, journalists who, like, don't really know, but, like, they're being asked, right? Like, you got to write a story, you got to inform the public, right? But they don't have a very good understanding. And gain of function sounds like every science fiction, like, on this type of thing. That's what it sounds like. This was exactly what this looks like.
no,
And that's some,
I don't begrudge the general public of like, if they, if the words gain of function are used, they just, automatically assume, well, this is just like, bioweapon manufacturing.
yeah.
There's like the
Okay.
colloquial definition and then the scientific definition. The one that we are talking about is more of like the official virological molecular biology version that people don't really understand. That even Rand Paul doesn't understand, but he makes it seem like they are trying to nefariously gain function of viruses, like that viruses shouldn't have and stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
like, which is frustrating because like that also is what molecular biology does. Like technically the algae that I made that kills cancer, like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, it made a toxin in its chloroplasts that when we extracted it and put it into mice, like it killed that cancer. So like, did that algae gain that function? Like, yeah. Is that a bad thing? No. So it's like, even in that concept, it's like, it's very weird.
Could you I would like to ask the audience, and this is mostly,
Mhm.
our friend Dr. Greg's audience here, because apparently there's some anti-vaxxers or anti-Fauci individuals. I want to
Yeah.
say, right? I'm not trying to load things, right?
Yeah.
Within the chat, like, I would like if you guys could tell us, what are your concerns, right? Like, if you could, like, write, something short in the chat and just, like, tell us, like, because I'm sure I'm missing stuff. You're like, well, why is it saying this? This is the
Mhm.
obvious smoking gun, right? I'm sorry. I'm not within your circles. And so I don't necessarily know. And so, like, if you could say that, and then maybe we can comment on that, right? Like, if
Okay.
you could put something in the chat, please. Because I don't want, I honestly, I'm not trying to misrepresent you or your side or your perspective, right? Like, I want to explore this, right?
Mhm.
Because, from my outside perspective, things are very unclear. So yeah, let us know, like, what your thoughts might be.
But in the meantime, so Prime, based off of like, let's say some of the things that we went through, like, are you still, or at least it seems like, you maybe have the impression that, oh, based off what you read and, things, that other things that you're consuming, there's a case to be made that maybe Fauci misled the public based off of, the private conversation he may have been having, that he wasn't necessarily, that he wasn't, well, let's say, communicating to the public about. Are you still under that impression? Or are you still like, let's say, you still think there's a case of like, oh, Fauci may have misled the public or wasn't truly transparent about, or let's say, truly consistent with his messaging?
I will answer that, but I want I would you could answer one question for me.
Sure.
You both referred to a particular study, right, that came out, and then that changed, like it went from 80-20 or whatever, right,
Mhm.
to 99% because you looked at this piece of evidence and you're like, this almost certainly proves zoological origin, right? Um, when did that come out again?
2022.
2023, 2022, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Warby 2022 and Picard 2022.
Orby 2022 and Picard 2022. Okay, right.
Mhm.
So these two studies happened in 2022, right? And was it 2020 is when, like, everything first started happening, right?
Mhm.
And the conversations that we were examining, this meeting, right? We're examining that happens in February 2020.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. What I had so many freaking conversations about this, like during the pandemic, right? Like I had a platform where people came in and argued with me all day about these things,
I
right?
know, dude. It's
So like I had a
crazy.
lot of conversations back in the day. And so what our more skeptical friends would say is that, hey, we have a government response here that has shifted, right? Like they've given us messages to the public, and then like that has shifted. Like if you like timeline it, right? That like this is the message. This is absolutely what you should be doing at this point, right? Or February 2020. And then by June 2020, there's a different story. And then we're being gaslit like the other instruction didn't happen, right? Like one of the things that they were really concerned about, and that like helped grow skepticism for is that like, hey, there's a shifting story here, and then first you're being told you're crazy to even question it, and then it does shift, right? And sometimes it shifts in our direction, right? Our skepticism like is proven correct, right? Maybe this wasn't the best course of action, and now that the whole world is accepting that, pretending like the last thing didn't happen. You didn't just like make fun of us for like months at a time. This was the conversations I was having. Um, Looking at from what we've seen so far, like I think it is reasonable for a person to say that this was dishonest. If at the time Fauci was saying, uh, like again between 2020 and 2022, before the studies came out, once the studies come out, then he can has definitive evidence, right? I can point to these are the studies, right? What else can I point to? I can point to these studies and say it's zoological, right? That changes the game. But before then, right, the public is asking about this lab leak, which is not unreasonable, and he has people who are telling him, "Oh yeah, it could be a lab leak." Right? We looked at the sequencing for what it was, like for what that information that gives you, and yeah, it could be a lab leak. But the message that he's giving us is solidly not lab leak. Yeah, that seems dishonest.
I think, I mean, the diary shows that they not only pushed lab leak for to cover it, but also that Fauci didn't think that there was substantial evidence for it. But since so many people were talking about it, they investigated it harder than they would have. So like I feel like it's kind of like the opposite.
What would have been lost by saying we don't have substantial enough evidence? We have to
We
wait
do.
for
They said that.
um.
They said that straight up. They said the proximal, that was the proximal origins paper. They were literally like, this is what our hypothesis is, and we're going to investigate it. The only people that have actually tried to investigate the origins of SARS-CoV-2 are scientists. So that's
No,
just what it is,
true,
like,
obviously.
so like
Yeah.
and they still, we're still doing it to this day. We actually, they had, I have someone saying that they wanted to join. Better, I don't know.
I'm not necessarily opposed if they have, valid
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah, especially if they're anti-Fauci. Again, that's what
Yeah,
we'll call
I'm also
them.
not opposed to that.
I would actually like to hear their thoughts.
Okay. Okay. Howard, it's someone in YouTube chat. I can't bring them up. And the people that are
Oh, yeah.
trusted
That's
for TikTok. Can you, Bitter Truth, can you try joining on TikTok, man, so I can bring you up? I have a super chat. I witnessed some pretty despicable Asian hate living in Seattle area when the breakout happened.
Mhm.
Had to call 911. The lab leak conspiracy happened almost immediately here since we had the first cases. It's on. Do you have TikTok? Bitter Truth, Dr. Greg show on TikTok. I mean there was never evidence of a lab leak. That's the thing. Like there was never any actual evidence of a lab leak, but they investigated it anyway. I think that's the thing we have to realize. Like there was never any signs, any evidence, any like smoking gun that was like, oh man, we need to look at this. I mean, it never happened. So that's the problem. I don't have TikTok. They said it couldn't be a natural zoonotic spread. Yeah, Ruben, that's just not correct, man. The multi-sequence analysis showed natural origins. Yep. Yeah. I mean, all of the papers since then have all said that. It's like it's so frustrating. It's like imagine not knowing how to read and then telling people what's in books. That's what it feels like, because it's like I've read all these publications. There's so much evidence out there, guys, that it's like I can tell
But
you what it is, but there's like
no.
it's
Again,
so
I'm trying to
frustrating.
put us back into the specifically the space
Yeah,
2020 to 2022, right? That we don't have these publications, right?
sure.
Or at least not definitive ones. And in that space, uh, and there might be other, like, again, because all the thing we're going off of right now is just like, you know, Fauci's writings there, and there might be other events that we're missing, but like going off of this, right, on Fauci's writings, we're saying like experts are like, yeah, it could be an insertion thing. I know experts can be proven wrong later, and apparently that's what happened, right? They're proven wrong later. This were their educated guess looking at this information that this is the origin, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's insertion, a gain of function.
Exactly.
But then the messaging to the public, from from what I remember, and I could be missing stuff, but like that it was definitive, right? And remember, they like this is why I brought this up previously. Like people were made to feel like they were crazy to feel otherwise, right? When apparently we don't have the evidence. We don't have the evidence at this point. And a reasonable people within the scientific community are saying, yeah, it might be insertion.
Mhm. Yeah.
So like that feels like when you're messaging to the public that you are keeping something from them. And when they find out afterwards, this loses trust. Does that sound reasonable here?
No, and also to be again, not that I'm looking to necessarily be all that charitable, but there are still some scientists that are in the lab leak camp and don't and reject the scientific evidence. I would say demonstrating zoonotic or natural
He
origin.
lied about the um the PPE, right?
The masks,
Yeah,
yeah, that noble lie, not the greatest. I don't
a lie,
recommend.
but a lie nonetheless, right? He lies
I
about the
agree.
PPE, and yeah, and they're and again, I'm not like fighting back against you, but yeah, but like he lies about the PPE, excuse me, and then he doesn't give the full truth as to like what the scientific consensus are. There really was no consensus at this point, right? Like people are still working on things. Um, he doesn't like give the full truth and says it's definitive. At least from what I remember, if someone can bring up quotes from that period of time and like maybe he's saying something differently, it's like, oh, you know, he's more wishy-washy on this, like leaving it more vague. That's different. But if he's telling the
that
public
I mean that's what the diary
that
said.
this
That
is,
the diary said that
yeah, yeah.
he
But
was
like I don't again I can't remember. This was so many years ago, right? But like, and I didn't care nearly as much as other people did. Honestly, I was like, let's just get through this. I didn't really care. The same way, but like, it feels like what was being said, like it's definitely a zoological when there was a question
Mm-hmm.
here, right? Um, and then all the other shifting, there was other shifting that happened within these responses, right? Like there's a whole list of these things that happened. And so, yeah, looking at that from an outside perspective, right? If a person doesn't trust institutions, um, then it's reasonable to say, yeah, there's deception going on here, and I have reason to not just take your word for it.
Zozo, what's we had someone join from TikTok. What are your thoughts, man?
Hi, Dr. Greg. I watch your, debate, evolution versus creationism with Cantor, and
Okay, cool.
I
Thanks, man.
was, I really, I like the way you explain about the evolution, but I was kind of surprised you never touch the creationism, where you can debunk in 2 minutes the creationism,
Okay.
where the Adam and Eve story, the Adam been created from the dust and Eve created from his somatic cells, which was his rib, and there are flaws, there
Yeah.
are numerous issues. If you just highlight that in that debate, i I highly doubt it you even can resolve only one out of 100 of issues.
Okay.
Like
Thank you, man. I think we're trying to get people that disagree with the and think that lab leak might be true. So I appreciate your kind words. I appreciate you saying that, man. I think we're just gonna get try to get someone else though. But I appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming up. Okay. No, it
Yeah,
was
if you're a
disconnection.
lab leaker, then please come on. We'd love to hear from you, honestly.
Or rather, a believer in the lab leak hypothesis. Do not leak things from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
lab.
yeah, fair enough. Because again, I don't want to. I'm not trying to like do a bad job of presenting your case here. But
I
like
think you're doing a
again,
pretty good
like
job. Not that I know all the talking points,
yeah,
but yeah, I think you are bringing up, like, let's say, from the mindset that I'm imagining, you are bringing up reasonable, critiques and conclusions, I would say.
yeah,
But it's like, yeah, I don't know how an institution, yeah, communicates these ideas, or how it deals with this person that,
yeah,
like, because I mean, at the end, like, it more or less is like this person has to rely on the messaging of the institution, unless they are themselves gonna, whatever,
Yeah.
get all the requisite knowledge to dive into the scientific literature. Um,
yeah.
And
And I don't.
I
And
honest
like, go ahead.
I mean I don't feel like they're good faith critiques. I mean, I had talked to these people a lot during the pandemic, and they were, it was I'm not it's because it's the emergency use authorization. That's why I'm not going to do it. That's not why I'm not going to get this vaccine. I'm not
Oh yeah,
anti-vaccine. I'm
yeah,
anti this vaccine.
I
And
had all
then
those
yeah,
same
yeah, yeah.
conversations. I mean, I
yeah,
debated Scott on that.
exactly. And then guess what? And then all of a sudden, as soon as the emergency use authorization, oh, it's not a real FDA approval, or it hasn't been approved for 5 years when it should be approved. We need 20 years, and
Yeah.
they're always gonna find a
Yeah.
thing, man. I think it's like what do you do in a scenario like this? Like what do you like? I don't think that there's any winning
And
formula.
this is why I'm asking. Well, I was asking specifically for people who are anti-Fauci, not necessarily anti-vax, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
like we're pretty sorry, like we don't feel like really debating like whether the vaccine is safe or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
That part, okay, you can have
Another
your
time.
disagreements, fine, yeah. But like, it's like what I want to know is like why do you think Fauci is guilty, right? Like if you think of like Rand Paul is cooking here, right, during that hearing, right? Like why? Like what about this guy is like so untrustworthy that he deserves to this level of function? And or what about even not necessarily about the personality Fauci, like what about the response, right? That you think like we shouldn't be trusting this. Because I think I think they're reasonable. There's a reasonable case to be made here. So like yeah, not like the fucking virus, like whatever. But like the response to the virus. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, there are valid critiques to make of Fauci, but like, yeah, there's definitely a segment of people that like they almost certainly want him, like, I think literally or figuratively crucified, or actually like behind
Yeah.
bars, of like they have like an absolute hatred. towards. I think I don't know how much it holds true today, but I think even today, Fauci has to have security around him
I'm
because
positive he still has to have security.
I
I don't know for sure,
honestly,
but I
honestly,
wouldn't be
dude, I
surprised.
really do think that I don't think that he did anything nefariously wrong, like during the pandemic. I really don't think so.
I
Like,
agree.
I don't
Like
think that
I
he ever spoke out of turn. He was always very. He was even in his notes. He was talking about like these Republicans keep asking me these questions, and I'll keep answering them. He's like he's paying way too much deference to these conspiracies. If anything, I think that he should have been more heavy on the science communication and really pushing back at it. Dr. Keisha, thank you. Dr. Keisha Davis was on Don Lemon's show yesterday or the day before.
Oh,
Freaking awesome!
shout
So
out to Dr.
congratulations.
Keisha. Yeah.
absolutely.
Killing it.
The only mild critiques that I have of, at least again from what I've seen of some of the excerpts or paragraphs from the diaries, is like again, this is not nefarious, and from what I understand, all this is legal, but like yeah, how much he advocated himself for all of the awards. But I understand this is the equivalent of I guess scholarships for a graduate student or whatnot.
What
But
I didn't let me. What was that attack? They kept bringing that up. What I don't get it.
he basically looks like, but again, I haven't like dissected these things, but it looks like there were times where he was pushing himself or trying to sort of like encourage another person to nominate him for whatever career awards.
Oh, he's just like he's copying. I'm looking at a diary right now. He's copy and pasting big things that happened, like news events, where they are, and then he's just copy and pasting like Sharon Stone, Fauci to be honored during virtual research in action awards. Another one.
No, but I believe there are some where he's like contacting people more or less. I don't want to totally misframe, but essentially sort of like requesting, hey, can you please nominate me for this award?
In addition, I should point out that I have been getting a number of awards and prizes that I had not even documented in these notes. It's a shame that these things are moving so quickly that I don't even have time to savor for a moment the many awards that I have been getting. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. I mean,
So,
is that?
well,
again,
I
not
mean, that
nefarious
was
and nothing.
that was
from what I
like
understand.
that was
Yeah.
talked about in the Republicans about this thing that all he cared about was making money about through these awards and like.
I mean, some of the awards did have monetary, but like I think there were some where he did receive monetary awards or compensation, but I think there were also some that like he rejected the monetary compensation, or rather he requested like to donate to charity. Or I think there were some rules and regulations at the institution of like there's only so many awards that you can accept, or like you have to like reject some of these awards type of thing.
do you do you guys think that there's anything professionally dishonest about like pushing, like lobbying for an award? Like if you could, like let's say you had some level of access to like the Nobel committee, right? Like you knew a guy who knew a
Well,
guy,
Trump lobbies
right?
himself for the Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not helpful for Fauci then. But
True.
yeah, if you knew a guy who knew a guy, right? And you're like, hey man, like I did this research, right? Like I'm trying to get nominated here. I don't know how the nomination process is like, but like let's say I'm trying to get nominated here. And you're like, could you put this forward, right? Could you do this thing? This would be a huge help for me if I'm like considered and I'm nominated. Is there a problem with that?
I don't think there's an inherent problem. Like, if this is more or less like the equivalent of like, academic scholarships, which I applied and was very, lucky in getting, but like usually how it works, or let's say if it works similarly, like usually if you get like one scholarship, you're likely to get more. And so if I don't know for sure, but I imagine if you start getting some career awards, it's probably just going to lead to more. And it's like,
Yeah.
could there be a question of like, are you more concerned with the awards, or like, are you actually trying to do a good job? I don't know. But like, is that like,
yeah, for me, like I don't care about that. Again, unless you can tell me something that's like quite nefarious or straight up illegal. But I don't think he's smart enough not to write down anything illegal. He's not that dumb.
yes, I don't think there was anything illegal, and that he
yeah.
really violated any whatever norms or
I think this
rules.
is a constant like like mischaracterization. I think is a light word for it, right? Like it's like looking at it in the worst possible light. Like, oh, he's so obsessed with these awards. Well, I don't know. It's good to get professional awards, right? Like, I think a lot of people want professional awards for
Yeah.
whatever they're doing. And there's a whole slew of benefits for that. And so yeah, people work to try to get those, and people are happy with like media coverage. You know,
Yeah,
like oh look, ma,
dude. I
I'm
mean,
in the New York Times.
he's literally. I'm searching award, and it's like, to 6 other honorees were recognized. Those honorees, I had an amazing evening at the humanitarian award. Like, he's not making any deal of it, like how awesome I am or anything. He's just like literally
No,
just
I don't think he ever
pasting on.
boasts
Well, the
about it, from what I
Republicans were
understand.
talking about, this is all you cared about. All you cared about was getting money
Well,
and
they're
all
using
this.
the evidence because I think like they do show some emails where it's like, and again, he's not, from what I understand, he's not like boasting or like bragging about it, from what I understand. But like, I think they use the fact that like, oh, you sent this email to this person, and this email, like, you're requesting this person to nominate you for awards, so therefore you must be obsessed with getting awards.
I went to
Yeah,
receive the Kennedy Award for Inspired Leadership at the Institute. It was a really nice affair, and I was showered with affection and admiration. I mean, the other part of this is that he's spending all of his time battling these Republicans who keep attacking him personally, and where
yeah,
he's being attacked. So it's like, so think about that mindset where you're like, wow, I'm actually, and he's working hard. He's literally single-handedly in the first year trying to steer this ship that's going into the rocks, like the siren call of authoritarianism, trying to like steer it back into reality, like doing a lot of like work and getting pillared by on one side, and then on the other side at least he's getting recognized. So I'm sure in his mind he's like, well,
mm,
it's nice to like have some accolades, it's nice to like actually be recognized, it's actually nice to actually be um he was on the cover of People magazine. Sweet brother of Jesus of Christ of Nazareth. Trump literally
And I'm sure as
doctored.
sexiest man alive too.
Trump doctored his own cover of People magazine, bro. He, before ChatGPT was a thing, he paid an artist to fake himself on a People magazine time of the year. So person of the year. So bro, like that, like serve that to someone else,
yeah.
bro. Like give me a
Again, I
break.
don't, guys. Like
And he
this
depicted
is just
himself
that.
as Jesus, or I'm sorry, a doctor, a physician.
Well, yeah, Jesus and Doctor, and he's like no, and he's like put forth like other people's renditions of him, right? You know, with his shirt off and muscled, right? Like
True,
with,
yeah.
with an AR-15 in one hand and an American eagle resting on his like wrist. Like, come on, man. Like,
Ruben, he did
so like
that. He literally did that, Ruben. Oh my God, the same guy's saying that didn't happen. That's the thing. It's like do stuff so
He
outlandishly.
put his name on the Kennedy Center. Are we gonna deny that?
Is that
He
like
didn't
he's
have to
like,
do that.
he's so
if you don't,
cartoonishly stupid that people are like they don't even believe the actual things that Trump does. It's
it's
wild,
crazy,
man.
yeah. Like, I'm sorry if you don't know that Trump is a self-aggrandizing narcissist. By this point, there's like not much we can do to help you. Like, there's just not much we can do to help you. Like, he has a long history of this. Like, go to ChatGPT and ask. Right, go to try that. Right, like go to your favorite AI chatbot and ask about like times that Trump has self-aggrandized. Right, like he has absolutely put himself on the cover. He begged. We slightly touched on this before. He begged and cried and bitched and moaned that he didn't get like a Nobel Peace Prize, right? Because Obama got one, right? And Obama shouldn't have got one. That was a bad call. He shouldn't have got one. Didn't deserve it. But Obama got one, and so he begged and then so FIFA came up with a fake, fake, I guess. They made up their own peace prize for him, the FIFA Peace Prize, to his and the FIFA president is one of his close friends. Is like within his inner circle, right? This is the thing that happened. Holy crap, right? If you think that's beyond him to like put himself and like what that is, actually, that's he's not the only one who does that. You see this from scam artists all the time, right? That they put themselves like to gain credibility, they'll put themselves on magazines, right? Like Forbes and whatnot. They'll edit themselves in. This is the thing that's done, right? And yes, you can point to that. Oh, this happened. Are you going to go check the Forbes records, archives to make sure they were on the cover? No, you're not going to do that, right? So I guess just a thing like scam artists get up to that, right? Or this is like why people like to get on the 30 under 30 list, right? Like
Yeah, the Forbes
it's
30
just
under 30. Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Forbes
good
is
PR.
yeah, it's a high ability there. But like that's the thing that's done, right? And so yeah, Trump did that. So like, please, let's not don't bother us with that. This is why I'm trying to focus on Fauci here, right? Like, and try some honest criticisms. Like, if you don't know that this about Trump, you're lost. You're lost, and I can't do anything for you.
True.
Here's early January 2020. He just is going through the. It was really interesting. The first page, him going on January 26th, game on. He realizes that it's a full blown pandemic. Like, let's go. This is it. He literally is looking through the genomic data, he's doing the infectious spread, like talking about this 5 paragraph essay about like what he wants to do and what's going on, what's next. And then you have January 29th, 3 days later, amazing day today. At the deputies meeting in the Situation Room, big surprise. Mick Mulvaney led the meeting, and after about 1 hour, the president came in, and the first thing he said is he looked at me and was, quote, Anthony, you're a really famous guy. My good friend Lou Dobbs told me that you were one of the smartest, knowledgeable, and outstanding people he knows. He then stayed for 20 minutes and asked most of his questions to me. I was surprised and very pleased, and deputies were clearly stunned and impressed. When Trump finally left, he said, quote, Anthony, are we okay? I said, we're good, end quote. He smiled and he walked out of the room. He said, quote, thanks again, Anthony. We're counting on you, end quote.
Yeah, this ankle is dumb, right? Talking about like his love of talking to important people and to be on, like, ignore it. Like, you know, even the most charitable like view of that, right? Let's just like let's assume everything is right in terms of like the other side, right? What that gets us is a guy who's a narcissist. First of all, Republicans don't have a problem with narcissists. They voted in Trump, okay? Right?
True.
That's not an issue for you. Don't pretend that otherwise, right? So let's ignore that. And then otherwise, that doesn't mean that he did a bad job. A narcissist can do a good job at a thing, right? Which is why I'm trying to focus this conversation on like his professional actions, right? What did he do, and how did he present to the public, right? Was there deception there? That's like the meat of this. So anything else, like don't bore us with that. I don't care. I don't care. But yeah, I don't know. I think that yeah. So what I was going to say is that like I feel like I am unsure. Like, I'm putting myself in this situation, right? How do I present this information to the public? Right, like that's what we keep coming back to. How do you present this information to the public?
Can we think about how we would do this? Ingrid, how's it going? How would we do it differently on the next one? Can we do like a future perspective instead? Like how instead of trying to put it.
I will. Hold on. I want to do that, but
Okay.
I actually want to look at the past just for a second, right?
Okay.
Because it's important to understand like why we need to do things for the future, right? Like this is from I'm now Fauci, right? And I'm like wondering what I'm going to do. I'm unsure where this virus came from. I have my deep professional suspicions, but I'm unsure. I don't have 100% proof at the very least, right? I'm getting strong political pushback that an enemy country has launched this thing, right? Or at least purposely or accidentally, right? Has launched this thing. And I'm dealing with policymakers, and I'm dealing with a public hungry for information. Because now, guess what? We've locked down. Right now, it's locked down. Now it's everyone's problem. If it wasn't everyone's problem before, it's everyone's problem now because we've locked down the country. And so, like, how do I present this? Right? Do I act from a place of complete certainty? Because people like certainty, right?
That's what I was going to bring up. Of like, even do you go with the correct messaging, the most accurate messaging, or are you trying to ease and calm the public? Because those are not always, one-to-one compatible.
100%. No, hold on. And this is such a big issue, right, for scientists, right? And because like scientists and just intelligent people in general understand what they don't know, right? They get that. And so like they hedge their bets, right? Our friend Corey here, I know he does it all goddamn time, even when he doesn't have to. Constantly hedges his bets. You don't have to do that all the time, Corey. Oh my god. But he does it all the time, right? And he's like, "Hey, I'm presenting information because like this isn't directly in my wheelhouse, right? Which is microbiology. Like because it's not directly in my wheelhouse, and I can't say for 100% certain. Like Corey will always preface things, well, to my understanding, right? As far as I know, and which is him just trying to be like an honest individual, right? Um, and that's it's not a bad thing, but he does it too much. But like it's not a bad like habit to have. And these scientists, right? Like, hey, yeah, the more you understand the scientific process, you understand, yeah, there's a variable of uncertainty, right? And so when they speak with that variable of uncertainty, right? Unless they're talking about gravity, right? They're speaking about a level of uncertainty. And but when you're presenting that to the public in an adversarial manner, right, in an adversarial environment, that's not helpful, right? When there's another side saying, "Oh, this guy is definitely wrong," right, and I have some nonsense evidence I'm going to present, which proves I'm 100% right, and then you come back, well, I'm like almost certainly sure that this is not the case from my understanding of the material, right? It indicates something different. Yeah, you lose the argument rhetorically. So again, this is why I want to examine the past. Like, what does Fauci do here, right? Like in a space where there's so much uncertainty, right? In any space that occurs, there's going to be scam artists, right? Liars who insert themselves because there's money to be made, right? There's something to be
Absolutely.
gained
Exactly.
in that situation. And so, like, do you go to the public and say, like, I know Dr. Fauci, long list of credentials, right? I know what the situation is. This is the path forward. We're gonna go. Or do you go like, I'm not so sure? And in that space, there's fear, there's uncertainty, and there's misdirection. I actually don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I lean towards, and this might just be me being too optimistic and maybe placing too much faith in the general public. But like, I lean towards trying to be as accurate as possible, and sort of like trusting the public that even though you are communicating maybe an uncertain message or a message that you're not 100% confident about, that they can navigate that or the public can handle it and then they won't freak out. That they don't require the reassurance that you know what's going on when they're looking into leadership. Because, like, I think that's general. Let's say the general trend is like when people look to their leaders, they're looking for certainty. Like they expect their leaders to have answers. But what do you do when your leader doesn't have answers, or they can't? You can't say, "Oh, this is 100% certain," as you said, like the way forward, the path forward.
Um,
Uh, yeah.
I had a quote, a comment. How hard would it be to show the science? So, I mean, here's the problem, and this has been the reality for the first 2 years of the pandemic. Everything COVID related was open. Like all the paywalls were cut down. You could read Science and Nature and Cell, Lancet, New England Medical Journal, all of them, and the all the sequences to SARS-CoV-2 were available. And I know this because I was reading those papers, and I used those sequences to do my own alignments and to QC things that I knew. So uh, that's the thing, is that it was shown, man. It's just that you don't know about it, and that's kind of like that was why I just started with
Well, I think they're
science
asking like,
communication.
do you attempt to teach the public?
I think that,
Because like,
oh, that's a good question. I
I
think that they're saying like, how hard would it be to let it be open? I don't know. I mean, I think that
You might be right. I'm just letting you know my interpretation because like I agree with you with that. I was going through the preprints myself and all that
yeah.
stuff, and I'm like that. Let's say as one of the positives of the pandemic of like now preprints being available and a little bit more accessibility to papers, like is a good thing. And like yeah, I think uh, the fact that it was so open at that time
Yeah.
was a good thing. But then
I mean, like, yeah, like I'm trying to remember, right? And because it's been so long, and in that space, right? Like we can insert a lot of intentions and a lot of like knowledge that we didn't exactly exist at the time, right? We can insert lots of things with like 2020, like the past isn't 2020 actually, right? There's the past is clouded even in your own memory, right? And so like I'm trying to like focus in on this space, and it's like in that space actually they did try to talk about the science, right? Like I feel like people did. Like I feel like
No,
there were
they did.
explainers. Not
I
doesn't mean
I don't disagree
yeah.
there.
Yeah. So like I think within that space there was like a lot of discussions like okay, well this is like what's happening. And they like tried to tell us, right? In terms of the public, I'm including myself here. Not very smart. We just like and also to consider, right? There was those who were explaining it badly because, just like I said before, there were like, a bunch of like reporters who didn't know, right, anything, and they were talking to maybe they talked to experts, but then they had to like transcribe that in something that's clear and like intelligible. And in that morphing, right, like they like screw things up, right, and that like introduced more uncertainty. All these things are happening at once. um and like yeah, so like how hard would it be to teach the science like for Dr. Fauci? I don't remember him like himself doing explainers, right?
No, that's
But
the thing.
like
Like, I think
yeah,
that's
go ahead.
so sorry to interrupt. But like, so I'm assuming we all remember, all of the more or less daily or very regular White House press conferences with Fauci and Trump,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
Fauci and then Trump undermining Fauci and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like I would be on board of like that, all extending those, like, those should be public lectures of like how are we doing our sequence alignments. What is it to align a sequence? What does it allow us to conclude? Trying to at least, maybe not like a full, whatever, 10-hour or, 40-hour course, but at least like,
Mm-hmm.
I think I can make a case and I can imagine like what a public lecture would look like to at least attempt to more inform the public, like what is the science that we're carrying out? Why are we making these conclusions as opposed to like just on the podium saying like, directing things or like, just saying statements without any sort of the reasons why. Just like with the messaging of the vaccine of like, yeah, there was definitely messaging of all the benefits of the vaccine, but I would say, at least by my estimation, but I could be incorrect, but not much messaging in terms of like, well, not public messaging in terms of like public lectures of like, how are we coming to the conclusions that the vaccines are largely safe and like minimal side effects, reduced transmissibility? What does the data look like? What were the actual trials with the patients included, the cohorts, et cetera, et
Corey,
cetera?
help me out here. Corey's our is our memory bank. Okay. Um,
Sure.
in the past Reverie, which we have Mondays 8 p.m. Eastern, come check it out. Right. Is that where? Because I had a conversation where we were talking about like the length of U.S. presidential elections, and it's
Yes,
two
yeah, that was with
years.
me. We were debating that. That was not last week, but the week before. Yes, as
Okay.
in like
Yeah.
pretty
Thank
much.
you.
They never end, or they begin right after the recent
Midterms.
election.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was freaking arguing with Corey, and I forgot that I was arguing with Corey. Whatever. Okay. See, this is why we
That
rely on
loser,
him.
idiot.
Sorry, but
That's
like,
okay.
okay. The point is why I'm bringing this up is that the conversation. Corey was arguing that maybe we should like shorten them, right? And like because they have like shorter elections in the UK, right? Like the span, they have like a little designated span of time, and apparently in Canada as well. They have a designated span of time that's like like a few months, as opposed to the U.S. where like as soon as we're done with these midterms, right? We're in presidential season like immediately. That's where it starts, and it's for 2 years of this nonsense, right? But like one of my responses to Corey, right, as to like why it should be this long, is because of how long like it takes for like facts about the race to sink into the public, to the general public consciousness. It takes forever for that to happen, right? Like for a political junkie like me, like I get it immediately, right? Because I'm hearing it immediately. As soon as it's happening, Prime is hearing it, right? But like for other people, right, who have lives, right? You folks out there, for other people who have lives, right? You guys are plugged into this at various levels. Some of you guys are, like me, or you hear it more or less the same day, right? For other you, it just takes a while, right? For others of you, right, like it's like, hey, I hear it from like my friend, who's like more plugged into these things, right? And like eventually it filters out, but it takes a while. That's the thing with these, like with this idea of like teaching people. it's like, who are you teaching? You're teaching some, because some people were definitely plugged in more than I was at the time, right? As to what's happening to the day, right? And like they're learning these things, and it's being inputted, right? But for the rest of the country, how long does it take to filter down, and what gets filtered down? Does the details of sequencing, does that get filtered down to the public, right? Do people talk about that? Is that what they get, right? Or is it something that more immediate to their lives? And like after the game of telephone that happens, like what does it look like? And I remember like people are like going like to Facebook groups for information. Bad idea.
True.
Bad
Yes,
idea.
absolutely.
All right.
Really bad.
But like that's where they were discussing these things. And so like, what does it mean to educate the public? I mean, like there were efforts to do this, but still we have like a massive misinformation and like there's a public education level of like effort that there's few things that border on this, right? Like a global like effort to educate, to talk about this thing, and still we have this level of misinformation, right? So like I don't even know what it means to educate the public, because that's not so simple. This is what I'm trying to
No, I agree. It is not so simple. And I would make the case, well, for public broadcasting channels and all that stuff, where at the time of the pandemic, or the height of the pandemic, like I would make the case, or
people
like, yeah, go ahead.
people didn't know Joe Biden. Sorry, very
That's right.
quickly. People didn't know Joe Biden was on the ballot. That's the other thing I was going to say. People didn't know Joe Biden wasn't on the ballot, right? For the U.S. presidential election, Kamala Harris had been on the ballot for 100 days, right? Like she was the nominee, right? And like infamously, on the day of the election, right? After just over 100 plus days of campaigning, there was a spike in Google, what happened to Joe Biden? That's what
Yeah.
people were searching for. They got to the a booth, right? And they said, "Hey, what happened to Joe Biden? Where is he? I don't see him on the ballot." They were confused. 100 days. And so this is what I'm saying. Like it actually takes a long time, and still people don't get it, right? Like in what is bigger than a U.S. presidential election other than the pandemic, right? So sorry, I was interrupting you, but
That's
like
right. No, to apologize.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And yeah, like these are all like valid criticism and all things to take into consideration. Where even though like I would make the case for public infrastructure, for public broadcasting of like a 24-hour, as in like I was about to say, at the height of the pandemic, like I would not be opposed to like just a channel that like runs public lectures, trying to like inform the public and trying to get them to understand some of the biology and the data and all that stuff, like trying to but then are people going to tune into that? Are they going to be even aware that infrastructure exists? But then I would potentially, or I'm just like thinking off the top of my head, but I'm not opposed to like extending Amber Alerts.
That's a good
Like,
idea.
hey, we now have a channel that if you want to get information, or if you want to know who the president is, okay, we have this 24-hour channel that is running 24-hour presidential ads that they've all bought out. Okay, I'm not opposed to that, but again, I'm just spitballing.
Yeah, it's
So
tough.
anyway,
I mean,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, Dr. Greg, because you wanted to talk about the future now.
well, I mean,
maybe
yeah,
you
I totally think that like obviously there was a lax in something, right? Where I mean I got involved with science communication at this time because I felt like there was not enough scientists speaking up and out about like the stuff that was going on, the rampant misinformation that was happening, and kind of like that huge gap even between an undergrad education and graduate and like beyond like is really apparent when you have a pandemic. So I felt obliged to do something, and I don't think that there's any, I don't know, I maybe there is a special bullet that we don't know. I do think that I hope in the future
We
that like
implant a Neuralink chip in everyone's brain.
AI. I genuinely do think AI. I'm curious how if you had AI that people could ask their AI questions, and they actually might they could then they could bounce the ideas about vaccines and off of it. And my hope would be that there would be such a deluge of research papers and science publications that there would the AI would feast on those, and that would help people kind of like understand what is happening, what is what's going on. So that would be my hope. Obviously I tried to fill that gap with like, Twitch and YouTube and that kind of stuff during that time, but I'm not, I didn't do it, guys. I wasn't successful. so spoiler. But yeah, in the future, I think like I do think the biggest thing that really hurt us in the pandemic was having like a conspiracy theorist president that was, trying to take
Yeah.
the crown for like all the
Yeah.
stuff. I think that really the first 6 months there, like, that was, I think that was super, super, super nefarious. I do think though, like, but coincidentally though, also I do think that like having a president that is willing to say, um, "Hey, we're going to do this, and this is why we're going to do this, and this is what's going to happen," like trying to keep it on the track, because there were a couple times that it felt like that Fauci was trying to appease Trump and appease the scientists at the same time, and going back and forth and waffling. A good example is actually in March, which is when that Fauci clip happens at 60 Minutes, where he's talking about masks. Like, that he thinks masks are actually good because they were actually coordinating with the USPS to send out masks to every American household. They were going to send out 600 million cloth masks to all Americans, and Trump axed it. He stopped that from happening. So that Fauci did think that masks were a good thing to happen. But yeah, stuff like that, like like doing bringing out patriotic ways of being more like patriotic in the ads in the space. I would definitely be playing that
Can
up.
you expand on that? What do you mean by patriotic?
Like looking out, I mean, I do think that vaccinations are patriotic.
Oh, well,
Patriotism
I
requires
understand you
vaccination.
believe that,
But
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 I don't
but
know that
talking
just
about that, like,
messaging.
but that's the
Okay,
thing. I mean,
sure.
we did have like all those cringe like celebrities coming out and doing like the "We Are the World," inside of their mansions and stuff, and that kind of like
Yeah,
was
that was definitely
that was the awful of
very
like
out of
that was
touch.
the opposite of it, But I do think that there has to be a this is what's happening and this is why. The daily briefings were supposed to be that, but the problem is that Trump is so untrustworthy. You know what I mean? You can't believe anything that he says. That he was constantly kind of backtracking, and then you never could listen to him. So it's tough, man.
So it is tough. I guess what I'm trying to parse out specifically is like, what should the scientific community be in terms of response one, and then like scientific community in the larger sense, and then more specifically whoever is in charge in the more specific sense, right? Like the new Fauci, right? Because like you made a reasonable request there, Dr. Greg, a very reasonable request that like, hey, the president shouldn't like, put out like nonsense misinformation, right? Unfortunately, I don't think that request is gonna be fulfilled. Unfortunately, right? Um, like, well, hopefully, it's hard to imagine that we get a president any dumber than Donald Trump, right? Knock on wood on that shit.
You
But
just
like,
jinxed
we'll
it,
see.
that's for sure.
I know, right? It's hard to imagine, but who knows? But the more salient point here is that like science as not just vaccine science, right? But just science in general is under attack, just under attack from all sides, right? That like there is a moneyed interests who are pushing back on it, and this is not new, right? Like, I mean, climate scientists, right? Like they were told they were crazy when it first came out, even though Exxon had already done the studies. It's like, oh man, this looks pretty bad, guys. But like, let's cover it up, like that happened. And we know what happened. And what they did was like introduce like specifically a misinformation campaign, right? Just like cloud the situation, right? And everyone's just so unsure. Okay, look, the Republican Party doesn't go away in any of these scenarios, right? Whether they have the president in charge or not, right? They're still a Republican Party. They're still Republican leaders. They're still like a conservative right to deal with. And also to be clear, right? Like there were people on the left who were also like, putting in unwarranted skepticism and misinformation, right? So, but like the point is that is the environment that these scientists are going to enter, right? Like, and it's not like, hey, I'm just like giving a simple press conference where like I'm relaying the information, right? Like the weather, right? This is the weather, right? Like this is what's gonna be, right? And the high pressure system is rolling through, right? Because there's gonna be another person. There's gonna be maybe a reporter, right? A few reporters there who are gonna ask you like nonsense things. Right? They're gonna say nonsense things. And they're going to come at this as like as if they're representing the other side of the debate or whatever, right? Like the only point is that like there's going to be interest pushing back, and so how do you communicate then in an adversarial environment, right? We have to assume it's adversarial. It's going to be no matter what, especially after the COVID situation, right? Like that infrastructure for misinformation isn't going to go away. Social media is not going to go away. So then, how do you communicate in that environment?
Yeah. I'm not sure that I have an answer other than like ideally having good, without defining what that is, good dedicated science communicators. Because like good scientists are not necessarily good science communicators. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that I'm either one of those. Just as uh, the best, whatever, pick whatever scientist that you want, whatever biologists, chemists, they don't necessarily make the best teachers or educators. Those are
Mhm.
two separate skills. I know many faculty and professors that are definitely, let's say, experts in the field, but they can't teach worth a thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'd probably be to be honest with you, it'd probably be like paying content creators to make high quality, engaging science communication content during the pandemic. I think that would be you would have to do it because using if algorithms are how we understand and how we interact with the world, then I think that you flood the algorithms basically with information about, hey, we're having an impact, guys. This is a good thing that we're doing. We're having these shutdowns of this, but now these cases are going here. This is the current highlight of what's happening right now, but just have it as like an official kind of.
Well, we could even go farther than that. I like your idea. Like maybe just like directly paying some trustworthy people. But like, what if like we went to these science creators and did the same thing, right? We paid them to make content, but rather than just like putting it on YouTube, right? Which I mean, I think is a good start, right? To put it on social media. But like, hey, what if we like put it on the WhiteHouse.gov? What if we disseminated like these short, like concise clips, but properly informative to like the mainstream media, right? Like, hey, CNN, play this clip. This is from the White House. There's an emergency here. We need to explain it, right? This is short, concise, and like engaging, right?
Yeah.
And it explains things, and it does so in a way that doesn't like introduce a whole list of other problems for us, right? Like maybe we should actually make that a regular thing. Like, hey, this is the thing. Like, examine this, right? Not that this doesn't solve everything. Certainly not, right? But um, how do we? It's like if there is this content that exists, and it existed back then, right? People were doing this back then, right? They were doing it on their own. But like, how do we disseminate that? How do we get eyeballs on these things? If they're useful information and like gives them the relevant facts, right? Because in the end, guess what? They don't actually really need to know a whole biology lesson, right? They don't need the entire biology lesson on this thing, right? They don't need to know like the very I liked it the your explanation on sequencing, right? But like they don't need all of that. They need the parts that are most relevant to them, to their lives, because they're quite scared, and How do we present that? So I kind of like that, but like go even further. Hey, the White House gets involved. The White House has helped disseminating these things, and yeah.
I'm not opposed to that. My only, or I can imagine the pushback being of like, if the government is, let's say, insisting or paying creators, I can imagine some people making the case of like, well, this is state-sponsored media and therefore propaganda.
Well, it is state sponsored. We put it on whitehouse.gov. It's state sponsored. It's 100%.
Yeah,
Yes,
well, that's
the state has
but then
sponsored
they
this.
then they'll but I know I agree with you, but then I think there's going to be some people descriptively that is true. I obviously would deny that, but then I think some people would just view that as like that's propaganda, right? As in like if they're paying creators, they're paying propagandizers, right?
Well,
Uh,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean that's.
yeah. I mean,
I think
sorry.
that's the line, man. I don't know. You don't. I don't know how you get around it. Like it would be paid like propaganda, basically. Your propaganda would be actual science. And I don't think, but I don't think that you would
But to be clear,
or
I'm on. Let's say I'm not on board with well, I don't want to get into the weeds of philosophical debate of what propaganda is, but I'm on board with what you're
yeah,
recommending. I'm just
yeah,
providing the
Yeah,
potential
people are going to
pushback.
be bad faith, period. And I think it's fair. Like people
exactly.
should
And
be super
why,
bad faith about it. But
like,
yeah.
why let your haters define you? They're gonna be
True.
there. They're gonna be
Haters gonna
there.
hate.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like it's one of those things where you're like. Like we were so, if anything, I mean, I've said this for years and I'll keep saying it. We coddled the anti-vaxxers too much during the pandemic, and I still feel like we do still, and we kind of, because it was a new mRNA technology, people were like, well, okay, give them a chance, give them a break this time, and and now look where we are. You got like the influx of virus deniers. People don't even think that viruses are real now. So it's like and that's the problem with this Rand Paul thing. Like he's stoking this division as science as a wedge issue, but then also on top of that, he's also facilitating all of these like RFK Maha people that don't actually think that viruses exist now.
Have you guys seen Zoran Mamdani's like little video clips that he's been pushing out from through his campaign and now into office, right?
Mhm.
When
Not
Zoran,
recently.
you haven't seen it. Okay, that's fair. When Zoran does a thing, right? He like makes like a clip and then he puts it to his social media and he pushes it out there. And like
It's
these
amazing.
things are well done.
They're
You've seen them,
incredible.
right? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the future of politics and science communication is exactly like that, like addictive, hot, good, viral stuff like that. Yeah.
Either he's a good communicator or he just has an awesome communications team or both, right? I think probably both.
Yeah.
But like this guy, right? He's like communicating like his wealth tax, right?
Mhm.
And he makes a video and like talking about like it's not a wealth tax, but like it's a tax on second homes, right? Pied a terres. And he like makes this video and then like it reveals that he's outside a home of one of those billionaires, a hedge fund billionaire. I forget what his name is. He bitched and moaned about it, but like it's his second house, right? Not second house, right? Second house is doing a lot of work here, right? It's one of many houses that's not his primary residence, right? But it's he's got like some rooftop apartment type of thing, right? Like some multi-million dollar thing.
Yeah.
Penthouse thing, yeah. And he's like, yeah, we're gonna tax those. We're gonna tax this stuff, right? And this made a big splash, and it got like all over media, right? Especially conservatives hating on him. How could you, right? You doxed him. Oh my god, crazy. But like, but it was like interesting and it was engaging, right? And he does this continuously, and I'm like, that's what we need for this, right? Like, we need to be able to engage the public, give them accurate information. And I'm going to go back to that accurate thing because that's also doing a lot of work. Accurate information, so that like they can understand it. It breaks it down to like the essentials, right? Like we didn't need like the vagaries of like the bill he was proposing, right? There's a bunch of stuff and like whatever amendment he made, right? That no one cares about, right? But he like got it down to what you needed to know. But anyway, the accurate thing is a big problem because during the pandemic, accurate was like a moving target, right? Because
Absolutely.
like there was a science right now. This is our understanding, to the best of our knowledge, right? The Corey's favorite phrase.
To the best of your knowledge, that's my favorite.
Yeah. But then that moved again, right? Because then our knowledge changed. So that's an ongoing challenge. If you can't give people a definitive answer, but I don't know what to do about that. Like, I mean, shit changed,
Yeah, I don't know
I've
what to
been
do in the
talking a
situation
lot.
of like, your the best analogy that I've heard so far is like you're building a ship as you are sailing it. Like things are gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know, I wish, the reality is that we did so bad during the pandemic that there's so many ways that the United States could improve. Like that really is the reality. Like we're like 200th in the world for deaths per capita. We're the worst industrialized nation in the world, but by far on this. And we could do dozens of things better, dozens of things. And
Yes, sir.
that's the problem is that we don't even talk about those. It doesn't even get to see it played in the Senate hearing. It never is about that. It's just this weird wedge issue again, like and it's so frustrating because like what do we do? We're obviously not gonna, in the next pandemic, we're not gonna repeat what we did in COVID-19, right? Like would we go back to the previous CDC Gold Book status, or
You can do
The one that
worse.
was,
Like I don't know.
yeah.
Like uh, I can imagine like a worse situation. Like because there's a segment of the population that are now like well they're that are very much anti-lockdown no matter what. Like we even saw a hint of it with the hantavirus. You had videos of like people like going to stores and like say I'm never going to wear a mask again. There's
I know
there
it
was like
wasn't
no
even a
risk.
pandemic potential.
Right, exactly. Yeah, people like just going to the stores and like knocking down all the masks. Like no, this is not going to happen again. And so it's like well, and if there's an actual even more transmissible or a virus with a greater mortality rate, it's like, well, I can see things playing out much worse, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. It's really sad, man.
And
Go for it.
not to be too doomer, but like, uh, yeah, I don't. There, as you were bringing up, Greg,
Mhm.
there are lots of mistakes and there's lots of things to learn, and there's lots of good, fruitful conversations to have. But unfortunately, I don't think those, well, maybe outside of here, which is why you should tune in, those conversations will not be had because they're too busy persecuting Fauci. And
Yeah,
like, and they think the solution is, well, Fauci is the problem, so we just get rid of him. This will never happen again and couldn't happen again.
yeah. I mean, the Lancet posthumous retrospective based off of epidemiological data. So we know that the vast majority of our SARS-CoV-2 came through on the European airplanes. When Europe closed down, they all came in. Travelers and vacationers came over because they didn't want to get locked in Europe. So they came in, and I mean, as I'm reading here, Fauci was saying that we should quarantine them and test them, and DHS overrode, Trump overrode him, didn't want to do that. So that cost about 300,000 lives. People, like the amount of that, because so much of the virus that came from Europe. So that would have been about 300,000 lives. And then also because the vaccine was so efficacious at the alpha variant, and people didn't get vaccinated to a good amount, really. There's about 300,000 people lost their life because of vaccine hesitancy. So that's 600,000, which is half of the people that died during COVID. So those are we could have cut our numbers by half if we had just done really simple things, like actually when if people are coming in, if we have a pandemic, like you quarantine people, like forcibly quarantine people. If they're coming in, they have to sit in a hotel for 2 weeks or whatever, and we pay for their DoorDash, whatever they want. We pay for their hotel, and they wait there for 2 weeks. That's how you save a quarter of the lives during the pandemic, and just like advocating for preventative measures like vaccines. I think that those two changes, in and of itself, would have done an amazing job.
Absolutely.
I mean, like what our friend Corey said, I can very much imagine things getting worse, because, like I was saying, the infrastructure of misinformation doesn't disappear. In fact, like it's strength. If anything, it's strengthened. I think over time.
Mhm.
Like those some people who like started out their careers with like COVID misinformation, and now they're like have like big platforms.
Yeah,
It's easy money to spread fear, right?
yeah,
Easy money, always. Um, and so that doesn't like necessarily go away. And it's a now in case it wasn't proven before, right? Now it's a proven college industry. If there's another emergency similar to this, right, people know exactly what to do to make a buck out of it. So there's that. But like like I don't I don't know if if there is a response, like we have to respond to a pandemic, like, hey man, who's going to listen about like the importance of taking a vaccine? It's a virus, I guess. When like vaccine rates have continued to drop from 2019 levels, right? Like people are really seriously talking about like polio coming back, like polio
Mhm.
yeah,
being I think again now. And there's a whole list of these like diseases that are now on the table in the United States where they weren't previously. So it's like, okay, would 2026 United States do fare any better than 2020 United States? Like, what reason is there to believe that, right? Like, all signs
I don't
point us
think so.
to
There's any.
doing worse. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Way worse. I mean,
Um,
especially with measles and stuff. All those people have compromised immune systems now. But 30% of those people. Um, yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's gonna have to get a lot worse until it gets better. Sadly, I think.
I mean, I'll be severely disappointed. Well, if the next president is a Democrat, and if they don't start not only, let's say, rebuilding institutions, but then also maybe taking steps to building infrastructure for science communication, whatever that might look like. I'll be disappointed.
That would be great.
um,
That'd be great.
before we go, do you want to talk
Mm.
about the Kalshi thing?
Oh
Um,
yeah, sure,
that
sure, for
Brendan
sure.
Make a brief
mentioned.
judgment. Yeah, sure. Because I think it's interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, should you be able to bet on drug trials? Prediction markets on Kalshi and Poly Market now let people wager on drug approvals. Kalshi also plans to allow bets on clinical trial results. On the betting website Kalshi and Poly Market, people can now wager on whether FDA will decide this year to approve medicines for cancers in the lung, breast, pancreas, and blood. Kalshi also plans to allow users to bet on whether drug trials will succeed. Researchers, doctors, and patients said that these prediction markets threaten to undermine the drug development process. They said they worried that these study results could be compromised, insider trading could be undetected, and public trust could be eroded. Quote, turning loose a betting market in an ongoing randomized clinical trial really is a breach of scientific conduct, said Robert Califf, who was the FDA commissioner in the Biden administration. He said, for example, the critics said participants might drop out of an ongoing study or trial. Administrators could unconsciously alter their behavior because they were discouraged by a public prediction market suggesting their study was doomed to fail. Oh, that's funny. Wow. Yeah, that's wild. Um, interesting. Um,
Well,
what?
I as of now I lean towards not being on board with this. Although I'm pretty as of now anti whatever betting markets. Uh I think I think it leads to overall bad outcomes in the long term. But maybe we'll find out. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Something just I don't have any real rational explanations, but something intuitively seems wrong with gamifying everything.
Who thought of this? That is the crazy, like, what is that meeting, like that Monday meeting that they all came in and they're like, okay, we got betting markets for sports, politics, and then some guy's like, FDA trials, baby. Who does that? What was that meeting? That's wild.
Degenerates do that, but
Dude,
like,
that's crazy. Like, what? I like a good prop bet. I constantly do prop bets with my friends, but this is a little weird.
So I guess I'm a little torn on this, right?
Mhm.
Because one, I'm I lean towards what our friend Corey just said. Like, this seems to have like poor outcomes, right? Like necessarily gamifying everything, of like making everything a bet, right? Like there are poor outcomes to these things. And like the gambling epidemic. Oh boy. Whew. Uh, but like one, I'm a social libertarian, and like I want people to be able to do what they want with like their money, right? Like even if they want to piss it down the drain, right? If that's what you want to do,
Or
I want to give you
towards you
space.
in your bank account.
Or, it's not pissing it down the drain. It's doing something that's absolutely a worthy cause. But like, yeah. So I want people to have like freedom, right? I lean towards more freedom. And two, like betting markets are already a thing. So like if betting markets are still going to be a thing, then like I guess I'm okay with them like betting on FDA trials. I actually like, within like the framework of betting markets, right? Of what these things have become and are becoming. Like FDA trials, I mean, I don't know, sure, why not? Yeah, okay. If we're going to ban them, like if this is going to be a problem, then we should just ban the betting markets, right? If we're going to do a thing, a response, then it should be like, okay, we just don't do these betting markets anymore. Or like those are done, right? But like if we're going to have betting markets, we're going to bet all kinds of things, right? Like it's not like it makes sense to like ban illegal bets, right? Like things on like murder, right? Like hey, like is this guy gonna get shot, today, right? Like that it makes sense not to do that because someone's going to shoot him, right? But like other than that, like I mean, if we're opening to prop bets on everything, then I don't know what difference does it make. It's just another thing. It's FDA trials.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I take the point, and I think I understand love because like yeah, as in it's sort of like a black and white. It's either you either allow betting markets and it's more or less whatever goes, or you don't allow betting markets. Because like yeah, as in like I don't know what the approach would be or can be aside from what you just outlined. Of like, wait, if we're gonna have betting markets that exist and they're legal, then pretty much the only thing that they can't do is like you can't bet on illegal things. Uh, but then yeah, so all that to say is if I'm against betting markets, then my only solution is like they should be banned. But again, something also seems intuitively wrong about doing that or being that extreme. So all that to say, as well as I don't know what the answer is, but something
yeah.
seems off for me here.
It in some ways it clarifies things, like betting clarifies things, like especially in politics, like people will a lot of times like say something without like putting any time or effort into it, but then you'll be like, okay, no, but like, okay, for now, for $100, like what's your answer? Oh, well, yeah, for sure this is gonna happen. And you're like, oh, okay, well then what were we talking about just then? Like, so in some way, like the prediction polling for the president is kind of like, I think it's more interesting than just like a poll necessarily. So I think it's kind of, yeah,
Yeah, people putting their money where their mouth is.
yeah,
But like
exactly.
I'm thinking about like okay, well, how would I push back against my own argument? And um I mean, it would be sports, right? It would be what we've seen in sports. It would be, we've there's been a number of cases where we see people, and I'm not a sports guy, but like I've seen this in the news and stuff,
Mm.
um, where people are purposely like altering their performance, right, for a certain outcome. I think some guy was like missing throws or something, where like, and it seemed like clear that his performance like suddenly degraded in a way that was profitable, based on the bet. And so like the thing that would be concerning here is if someone if you could be assured you get like a fuck ton of money, right, like a whole buttload of money, like would you adulterate the results of your tests?
Well,
Like,
especially I think if one of the bets is is the FDA going to approve this drug? But I think that's currently, you can do that for some things on these betting markets. Well, the FDA approving some sort of therapy is, well, I would hope is dependent on some sort of data analysis that they're doing. But then, well, then if there's an incentive to either manipulate the data or modify the data in some way to either decrease or increase the chances of the FDA approving something, if you have a bet on that,
I'm thinking something
seems
more specific, because the
sure.
FDA approval like has to go through like a committee, right? And there's like a whole years long process, and like pushing that in one way or other, like turning the whole ship around, that's kind of difficult to do, right? Not impossible, right? You could fuck it up, right, if you really want to, right? Put your back into that. But like that seems difficult. I think I would be concerned about then would be more specific bets, because like the bets they get like can be quite specific, right?
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
so yeah, if these results are going to be like put out there, right, and I'm going to say within these results, right, like X is this and Y is that, right? um like what are the chances that'll happen, like let's bet, right? And then like what if I'm on the inside and I'm writing this paper, and
Yeah,
like
teleprompter guy.
yeah, exactly, right? Like X actually equals 55, but there's a bet, right? Um but the more profitable side of the bet is that X is above 60, right? And I was like, okay, X is like 62 now. X doesn't equal 55, it equals 62 now. That would be something that could maybe be a huge problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I take your point and I agree with it
But it's like
as well.
billions of dollars, though. I mean, that's the thing, is like it's like billions of dollars for one of these things. But I guess the argument could be like someone that's being exploited at work, not like being paid well, could like make money. Like the guy that was in the secret operation for Venezuela, like there one of the guys on there made a massive bet on whether or not Trump would invade Venezuela, and he was on the team, and so he made a crazy bet,
Yeah.
and he paid off. And
Yeah,
the
billions of
teleprompter guy,
dollars. Yeah, billions of dollars are online, but like I don't make billions of dollars, right? Someone's gonna
exactly,
make a lot of money, but I'm not gonna make it, right? I'm
yeah,
writing up this report.
exactly.
And like what I'm changing this value is deep into it. And hey, like we still get the approval, right? Like if I change this thing, we're betting on this thing, it doesn't change it, like, it's still all in the wash, right? Like it's the same. But like now if I don't adulterate it, and maybe the specifics matter, right? For like there's might be other downstream effects, but I'm not really concerned about that, because again, I don't make billions of dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like those downstream effects will be other people's problem. I can make big money right this second if I make X greater than 60.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I think if you're being exploited, then you're more susceptible to it. Makes them want to pay people more, maybe. But in reality, it's probably
But
just
it's
gonna
not
get
even
cracked down.
exploited, right? It's
Yeah,
just like the temps of money, right? Like you could be like reasonably paid, right?
You're just tipping the
Whatever.
scales, but in your favor.
Yeah.
And like,
Uh,
and again, this argument goes against me, but I think the argument that people make, or that can be made in this situation, is like this arguably already happens with the stock market. People place bets based off of trial outcomes of, like, is this actually going to be a blockbuster drug? But this is just, let's say, democratizing it, so to speak.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
mhm.
people do like make bets on the stocks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I guess this is inconclusive, but I'm not sure exactly what to do here. Like I mean, like it's been really easy again on the sports side to do this. I think there's like I think we've caught a few people up to this, but like, I would hazard a guess, just hazarding a guess here. There's probably a lot of players who've done this and haven't gotten caught, right? Who've
Yeah,
just been like more
I'm
competent
just
at it.
Oh,
operating the
for
assumption
sure.
that the there's lots of insider trading occurring. Whether it's the majority, probably not, but I think it's just like, yeah, there's way too many people that are able to exploit the system that we just don't know
Yeah,
about.
and so like when if we're talking about the FDA, right? Like one, there's not going to be a ton of eyes on this way like sports is, right? There's like so many bets on so many things, right? It's difficult to have a bunch of eyes on anything, right? Other than like the big ticket stuff. Um, and so within that, and they make like really super specific bets, right? They just do that. Um, and you could place the bet, right? Like you can just make it, right? And you can set this thing up. Um, like, will people like take advantage of that? I mean, they seem to have done so in every sector of life now so far. So I guess I can't say that they wouldn't do it with FDA. So maybe now I'm talking myself out of this. Like I don't know,
And
maybe not.
Good. That's where I'm at. But again, like I don't like to be heavy-handed. They're just like uh,
Mm-hmm.
outright banning, but like I don't know any other solution.
the craziest thing, insider trading corruption thing, is that they're actually going to sell Trump's Truth Social data that impacts the market to insider traders, that financial people that want that market moving data earlier, because like even 5 minutes earlier would make a huge difference, millions of dollars. So you can basically subscribe to insider trading corruption through the White House through True Social now, which is just
It's that's
unbelievable.
not that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not too much. I think this is corrupt as well, right? But like basically, they're going to set up um a data stream, right?
Mhm.
That is more immediate for his Truth Social tweets, right? Where like as soon as it goes out, the first people to get it would be the ones who's subscribing to this data stream, and it's only open to organizations, right? Like financial organizations. My understanding, if I remember correctly, and yes, like our friend Dr. Greg said, it's a market moving like thing. Like when the president says something, especially for this goddamn war, right? Like it moves markets. So the faster you get that, the better. It may not be like 5 minutes. It could. I mean, I guess it could. I mean, entirely in the ability to do that, right? But like, it could be like 30 seconds, right? And that's like enough. Like you could, especially with AI, right? But not just with AI. You could do it manually too. But like, you could have it so that as soon as it this data comes in, a computer reads it and like makes micro trades. Like hedge funds do like um thousands of trades like per second, like big micro up and down, right? As soon as like they go,
Yep.
they have access to these data streams and they like react constantly to that. With the president's words, right? Like, hey, like look for words like peace talks, right? And like that could move the market like heavily. But yeah, 100%. Again, I'm not just going to view that it's not like corruption because they're selling this off, and he's going to benefit directly from this. It's one thing because what I've heard, in which way, and I haven't looked into this, right? That like Twitter has something similar, and that like you can get like faster access to information. But like it'd be one thing if like an independent platform provides such a service. It's different for one owned by the president, right? Where the president makes these proclamations and then is directly benefiting from other people getting access to those proclamations
Exactly.
early so that they can benefit from it. Yeah, smacks the corruption up and down.
He's making money off of the presidency directly. Like that is the most like 1-to-1. It's just absolutely
No,
wild.
it's much worse. Another Wall Street Journal article that's out today talking about how Trump has this like campaign manager type lady, right? Um, or fundraiser type lady, excuse me. And she goes around like hitting like big corporations up for money. And she's like, yeah, like the boss wants his money.
What?
Um,
No
yeah,
way.
like the boss wants his. That's the quote in the
Oh
article. The
my
boss wants his
gosh.
money,
That's crazy.
and yeah, he's hitting up these corporations, and then it's what we've been seeing for months now, right? I guess, where like a corporation like delivers sends money to some Trump connected outfit, and then something beneficial happens to them like very quickly afterwards, right? And then like Trump, so she hits these people up, right? And then they get a phone call for Trump, and like they're thinking, okay, Trump is going to give us a thank you. No, Trump directly asked him for more money, right? Like, yeah, I need another taste.
Yeah,
So no, like, I'm sorry, no, the Truth Social thing isn't like the
that's so
best example.
funny.
No, he'll just ask me, give me money, give
It's
me
so
money.
funny.
You got
Just that
business
phrasing
that
is
the
so
federal government can
funny.
affect. Give me money. That's
Whenever
like,
I
yeah, that's like just out today.
Dude, the phrasing is so funny. Whenever I pick up a prescription from the pharmacy, I always tell my wife, I'm like, I gotta go re-up on my, I gotta go re-up at CVS. Try to like just, I don't know, just the way people phrase things sometimes. It's just so wild, man. It's so wild. What a world.
Yeah,
But I gotta
I'll
go.
try to.
I'm
Okay,
sorry. I gotta go. I got a birthday party that I gotta set up for my little one when she wakes up tomorrow at like
Absolutely.
6 a.m. And we got her a frozen scooter. Big. It's like a big day. So
I don't know what that is. Frozen a
like
brand
Frozen,
name or?
yeah, dude,
no,
like
Oh, oh,
the
okay.
yeah,
movie, like
Oh, okay. Okay.
the princess thing. So
I'm not in the loop.
honestly, Corey,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
how could you
I'm a
not
loser.
know?
I get it. I am.
you
uh,
obviously need to get on that scooter game, dude.
I do.
yeah. But like that sounds wonderful. Shout out
for,
to your little girl.
for
Shout out to
Absolutely.
your whole family.
thank you,
Happy
man.
birthday.
She had
Yeah,
our
happy
preschool
birthday.
graduation today too. It was really cute. So it was really cool. It was a
Nice,
big day
nice.
for her. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was fun. It was
So yeah. I guess we won't hold you.
uh,
Find me Prime Kai PRIMECAYS, Twitch, YouTube, Kick. Does anyone out there on Kick? It's all right. Don't worry about that. But anyway, yeah, find me. We do debates and stuff. It's a lot of fun. A lot of contention if that's the thing you're into. We'd love to have you. Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
And yeah, great discussion as always. You can find me on Twitch, CoreyCam84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, Substack, TikTok. It's Corey Campbell. And yeah, look forward to next week.
thanks,
Always a
guys.
pleasure.
Appreciate you as always. Thank you so
Take
much.
care. Be well.
Have a good one. Bye.
Have a
All right. I am. What's up, guys? Oh, interesting. Is F1 still here? Hi. Yeah, F1. This is yeah. It's I agree. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I F1 posted in Discord asking about the modern consensus about the lab leak stuff, and it seems like the global consensus is only in one way. I mean, that's just I don't know, guys. It is what it is. I don't know. So, but yeah, it's just it'll never die. It'll never die. It's okay though. It's okay. I mean, I'm in one way I'm like happy in the fact that it's like the issue that I have the most expertise about. You know what I mean? I know more about SARS-CoV-2 origins than I do about COVID-19, the respiratory illness, and the disease. You know what I mean? I have no idea how about the body or mammals or you know what I mean? I'm not a physician, so I have no idea about that stuff. So, um, but the SARS-CoV-2 stuff, that's my wheelhouse. I get that. You know what I mean? I get that entirely, and I so in some ways I'm like happy about it. You know, because it's like this is the issue that I'm the most adept for. Um, but it also is like the most frustrating for me because it's like one where there's so much evidence on one side and literally zero on the other. Like not even something where I'm like, oh well, I mean there's evidence that point that way and you know, I can see how you misinterpret it. Like no, there isn't not a single piece of scientific evidence for that. You know, and I'm like what it's very frustrating. So, but yeah, like I said, I gotta assemble some scooters. I gotta assemble some stuff. That's actually why there was so many boxes in this other view, this left view for the longest time. I had a bunch of Amazon boxes and stuff in the background. It's so embarrassing. Um, but anyway, I'm taking off. So love you guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Thanks for the gifts. Thank you for everything. Thanks for always being so kind. Thank you, Helen. Michelle, Whale Rider. Hey, Ducray. Good night, guys. Thank you again. Bye. See you, YouTube. Bye.